and External Affairs Officer with the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey, and I want to thank you. So we're going to get started with the program. First things first, we're going to hold a drawing because everything is fair and balanced. We're going to hold a drawing to seat the candidates. And just so you know, all the candidates in this race were invited. The ones that are here accepted the invitation. So without further ado, we're going to seat from left to right. And the first candidate, Robinson, Chanel Robinson. Next seat is Sue Altman.
Price is right.
Price is right. And the winner is for the third seat, Mr. Wong. Clap it up, clap it up. And the fourth seat is, Mealy. Mealy, did I say it right? Greg, okay, very good. Reminder to silence yourself.
Perfect.
Okay, the next seat, which is the fifth seat, we have Mr. Cohen. Clap it up, clap it up. Next seat, Mr. Adams. Next seat, Miss Dr. Hamway. Next seat, Berlina Reynolds Jackson. Clap it up, clap it up. Next seat, Jay Vandegar. Right? The next seat is Mr. Mayor Matt. Okay. Next seat is Mr. Kyle Little. Okay. Mr. Squire, clap it up, clap it up. Okay, fantastic. So, thank you again for coming to all our candidates and our residents. We are especially grateful for our valued partners, the League of Women Voters of Lawrence Township, and the ACLU for partnering with us on this event, for the refreshments, and for their collaboration and commitment to promoting voter education, civic participation, and a fair and transparent democratic process. It is my distinct honor. So we have the moderator today who's going to lay down the ground rules and how today is going to go. But it is my distinct honor to introduce a respected leader, advocate, and champion for economic empowerment for unserved and underserved communities and businesses across the state of New Jersey. Most of you know him. All of you probably know him. He's my leader. He's the founder, president, and CEO of the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey. He has been instrumental in advancing policies, initiatives that support minority-owned businesses, workforce development, and inclusive economic growth. The list goes on and on. I'm just going to stop it right there because we'll be here for another hour. So would you all please join me in welcoming Mr. Dr. John E. Harmon.
Thank you, sir.
Give Carmen a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to move today along. I'm extremely excited to be here. I want to just acknowledge a few folks. They've given me some prepared remarks to keep me on script here because you know I can go, right? So I want to start by again thanking Carmen, thanking all that supported Carmen. We have Mary Griffin here from my team, the League of Women Voters, the ACLU. Each and every one of you for coming out today. This is a very important, and most importantly, the candidates. These men and women are exposing themselves to you, this is a very vulnerable situation for them. They're public servants. They want to get in this space as the new congressional leader for the 12th district to represent your interests. And I would be remiss if I didn't take a few moments to talk about Bonnie Watson Coleman.
Yes.
I've known Bonnie Watson Coleman and her family for a long, long time. A family of public servants, a family of people that are dedicated to speaking truth to power on a daily basis, unequivocal supporters of what they believe in. And these men and women are vying to succeed her. And so it's your opportunity to engage them, hear from them objectively, and then decide who you're going to support. But at the end of the day, only one person can win this contest. And I would encourage you to give them an opportunity to be heard, follow up with them, to get your questions answered, and then ultimately cast your vote. And so let me just pivot to the script that was given to me. And I'm going to go through this real quick. Okay, I already talked about it's an honor and privilege and welcome you all. I did that. We talked about the 12th Congressional District a little bit. I thank you for showing up, staying engaged. And you know me as the president of this organization. So we are operating in a very real, challenging economic climate here in New Jersey. While our state continues to be a hub of innovation and opportunity, too many families, small businesses are feeling the strain. The rising cost of living is not theoretical. It's impacting households every single day. Housing affordability remains out of reach for many. Auto insurance rates, and this is a policy issue that hopefully it'll rise today. And I'll sum it up like this. In this state, in your state, auto insurance premiums are determined by education, occupation, and credit score. And there's one assembly person in this state. He's a male. I'm not going to call him out totally, but we're going to have some real conversations with him. But he's holding up, moving us forward. Auto insurance should be based solely on your driving record, not on your education, occupation, and credit score. And I know that Bonnie Watson had advanced a bill to address that. So hopefully the successes will continue. Healthcare is another area where the stakes are high. Access to quality, affordable care should not be a privilege. It must be a guarantee. Yet too many residents are still forced to make difficult decisions between their health and their finances. That's unacceptable, and it requires leadership that is both compassionate and solution-oriented. Education is equally critical. If we are serious about economic mobility and long-term sustainability, we must invest in our schools, support our educators, and ensure that every child, regardless of background or zip code, has access to quality education. Our future workforce depends on it. Another policy issue that's on the federal level and here in New Jersey, and I'll summarize it as this: project labor agreements. Many of you are not familiar with that. That's your homework assignment. In New Jersey, there's preferences given to the trades, and I think the trades are great. But 80% of construction companies in New Jersey are non-union, but yet they dictate how things are done. In 2002, Governor McGreevy's first executive order was project labor agreements. And I'll close out with this. President Obama had a $25 million threshold at the federal level. President Biden elevated to $35 million. And President Trump is now at $35 million. Why is the state of New Jersey at $5 million? And so what, in essence, it says up to $5 million in our state, you can participate on taxpayer public contracts without being a signatory to the unions. You still have to pay prevailing wage. So if we could elevate the threshold to be equal to the federal level or on a path to get there, it's going to help to close the wealth gaps. It's going to help grow and sustain more businesses. And I'll make this point in another comment further down. But those are two federal policy issues that we have to align here with New Jersey. New Jersey's out of step, not only with New Jersey, but New York, we're out of step. So we need to figure this out. All right, here we go. Disparity study, another issue. Your state spent $11 billion on public contracts with your money. White men received $10 billion. White women received $277 million. And black people received $3 million over a 5-year period. This is still a secret in New Jersey. I wonder why. You folks gotta follow what's going on in the state and not be emotionally attached to any candidate. Vote on your interests, your own policy, not the other foolishness. I'm going to close with this because I've said more than I wanted to say. I'm going to close with this here. The net worth of blacks in the state of New Jersey. Net worth. You take your assets, subtract from your liabilities, that number is your net worth. Blacks are at $20,000. Whites are at $660,000. So this is not a situation pitting blacks against whites. This is not what we're talking about. We're saying that everyone in this state has a value. They should be positioned so they can contribute to the economy and make our state more competitive and more of a coexistent situation. That's all we're saying. So don't leave here and say, Brother Harmon was eschewing racial divide today. If you say that, then you're wrong. So listen, I'm encouraging you to do your best every day to make sure that we work together every day for the betterment of the state of New Jersey. And these, ladies and gentlemen, want to be heard today. And then ultimately, you're gonna cast your vote for one or the other. So without further ado, back to you.
Yes.
Thanks, congregation.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. This is what we do all day, every day at the African American Chamber of Commerce. Let's give it up again for Dr. Harmon. So we're rolling right on time. This is great. So I need my glasses for this piece. Because this next fella, help me here, Earl. What happened? John messed it up.
That's what I did.
So the next piece, we're going to get right into the form, right? And you see how we did the drawing. It's all fair. All the candidates will have be allotted the same amount of time, the same amount of questions. They're going to be different questions, but they're going to get the same amount of questions. They have 60 seconds, and Earl's going to lay down the ground rules, but. So your moderator today, Mr. Earl Brown, is the founder and executive director of Earl Brown Education Consulting, a professional development and education consulting firm that he launched to serve school districts, corporations, government agencies, and community organizations across New Jersey and New York. A longtime member and partner of the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey. Earl is also a proud member of the greatest fraternity in the world, he says, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Across boardrooms, classrooms, and community spaces, Earl has built a reputation for creating the conditions where honest, productive dialogue can happen. A role he steps into today with both professional rigor and personal conviction for the future of New Jersey's community. There's a reason we chose him to be the moderator. Give it up for Mr. Earl Brown.
All right, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
No, we're not going to start like that. So we are at a phenomenal event, and I want to make sure we start off with some energy and some love, even though we're going to ask you to be silent throughout this. So we're going to try this again. Good morning.
Morning.
There we go. So first and foremost, for those in the crowd, I want you all to give yourselves a round of applause for being here today. You know, it's interesting, when we look on social network and we have these conversations, a lot of them are about arguments, right? Like, how come people aren't doing this and how come people aren't doing that? But when we have events like this, people don't show up. So for you all to show up on a Saturday morning speaks a lot to how important this discussion is and this district is. So thank you very much for showing up. So again, welcome to this candidate forum hosted by the African American Chamber of Commerce. As a reminder, this illustrious chamber, is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization under 501c3, under the IRS, which means the chamber does not endorse, support, or oppose any candidate for public office. Our job is to make sure that these candidates are here to voice their perspective for all of you. They do not at all do anything in a partisan behavior, so all declared qualified candidates for this district has been invited to this amazing candidate forum. So this is why you see this large, amazing group. So please give these candidates a round of applause. So as you saw in the beginning, we had the random name calling because we want to make sure that this forum is with fairness and equality. So we had no pre-named, no decisions on placements, so that all these candidates feel like we are in an environment of openness so that they can share their opinions. Now, the views expressed by the candidates are their own, do not reflect the chamber. So we ask the audience to please refrain from demonstrations of outward support and noise. We understand that, a lot of these topics can be very emotional. A lot of these topics can be something very dear to us, and what they say might speak to our hearts. But we want to make sure that everyone understands that this is a forum, not a debate, right? So when they say something, we ask that everyone gives them courtesy and respect, whether you agree or whether you disagree. So out of respect, we ask that candidates make sure, and those that remove the pins and such, but we bring to you a amazing forum that represents the members of Mercer, Middlesex, Somerset, and Union counties. And our goal is simply to provide clarity and education so that you all understand their vision for their visions, for their futures. So here are the ground rules so that everyone knows, but especially our candidates. I've been involved with these things, and I understand where some candidates like to squeeze an extra 5 seconds out and an extra 10 seconds out, and just let me rebut. So as a reminder, for the third time, this is not a debate. So there are no rebuttals, and we ask that our candidates obviously respect that. We have our amazing timekeeper right in front of you, right directly in front of you. So y'all can't say I didn't see them. They will put any cards up and they will warn you. So here are the rules for all of our candidates and for the audience to understand. Every candidate will have 60 seconds as an opening. Then we will go into questions based on very important topics and categories. Now, to make sure that things are fair, when I state a question, I will let the candidates know by name, by last name specifically, which question it is for you. And just so that we're not in confusion, each candidate does not answer each question. We don't have time for that. But each candidate does have an opportunity to provide their perspectives on each category and topic. Okay? So I'm going to say a question. I'm going to say the candidate that will answer that question. And then you have 60 seconds to respond to that question. Again, no rebuttals and no replies. After that, however, we will have closing remarks. Now, please make sure we stay in the allotted time. Please make sure we have no personal attacks. We have water bottles and pens. Please make sure they stay on the tables and no one throws them at each other. And of course, we all want to make sure that we are respectful here, okay? But before we begin, and I really want to say this and why I'm just so honored to be a part of this, be a part of this chamber, and why I'm so happy that this is at a college. Because as we all know, there is such a huge divide in our community and social, right? And it seems like ever since COVID, it's like, if I believe something, I'm believing that. If I believe this, I'm gonna believe that. And we live in a bubble in today's world. where families have broken up off of politics. And because of social media also, we no longer are receptive to people's difference of opinions. But this forum shows you that we can be in the same room after the same things. We can agree, we can disagree. And why I say that I'm very proud of this at a college, I'm also a professor at Montclair State. Now, you all might be open, but what I'm seeing in younger people growing up on social media, their ideologies, their perspectives, their opinions are fixated on one thing. So we need to do more events like this, where we have everyone in the room that can discuss topics. And we can say, hey, I agree with you, or hey, I disagree with you, but I am open and respectful to listen to you. So without further ado, is everyone ready to get started?
Yes!
Thank you. I'm gonna ask that again. Is everyone ready to get started?
Yeah!
All right, so this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna do opening remarks from left to right all the way down, and then closing remarks from right to left all the way back. So I'm gonna have the first person to give their opening remarks. Please, when you give your opening remarks, please state your full name clearly, and you are on the time for 60 seconds. Thank you. Please start.
Good morning.
Morning!
My name is Chanel Y. Robinson. I am an Air Force veteran, a mother of 3, a grandmother of 3, and those experiences dictate how I lead, how I show up for others, and everything I do, every decision I make, and every fight that I am in. Those realities shaped who I am as a leader. I know what it means to stretch a dollar, to struggle, to make ends meet, but yet I kept going. I'm also a domestic violence survivor and thriver, but yet I still show up and do the work. As a Rutgers graduate with my degree in labor studies and employee relations, I understand that the dignity of work for working families, because that is me, that is you, that is we. And before all of that, when I served in the Air Force as an avionics mechanic who repaired fighter jets, I will continue to repair Congress and work for you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sue Altman. I am a former professional basketball player. I am the former state director of New Jersey Working Families, and Andy Kim's former state director. I have been fighting powerful people my entire career. When I was a young person and I was, younger, and I was living in Camden, I went to a town hall in which Chris Christie was talking about how he was cutting school funding. I asked a question, we went back and forth, and in a culminating moment, he threw a microphone at me because he was so mad at me, and of course I caught it. Proceeded to correct the record, and I've been fighting powerful people ever since. As the state director at Working Families, I fought both sides of the aisle, because at that point in time in Camden, they were cutting programs and they were putting up tax incentive programs that weren't benefiting the people. So when I go to Washington, I will fight both sides of the aisle for what's right for our communities here at NJ12, and we will deliver for people. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sam Wong. I'm an educator, I'm a researcher, father, and our family is owned by 3 dogs, so that's us. I'm running to protect health, science, and democracy itself. I think all of the very fine people here are going to talk about fighting for you, working for you. I want you to listen to what they say after they say that they're going to fight for you, because all the specifics of serving you at a national scale are going to require the know-how to understand how to make practical change. Here in New Jersey, I've worked on gerrymandering. Here across the nation, I've worked on gerrymandering to help stop it all over the country. I've worked to help combat the county line, which is a thing that kept us from running. And so the reason we have so many fine candidates is because of the end of the county line. A lot of priorities that all of us care about will run through voting rights and the Supreme Court. And those are major priorities for me. I just want to emphasize that any priority we're talking about today, however important, can be stopped if we don't have the right to vote, can be stopped if we have a Supreme Court that stops us. And I'll be talking about that on the time today. I'm also a builder. I've built a business using AI, and I will be talking about it too. And it's a business to diagnose autism for all families.
Okay, yes, I do hear. Morning, everyone. I'm Greg Neely. I am your candidate for CD12 as well, and I wanted to start with the background that I really came from nothing, and I am the picture of the American dream. No funds to go to college. There was extreme doubt I would ever get there. But I pushed to excel in school. It always went well for me. I was very happy with that. And on the condition with my family that I could accelerate and finish in 3 years, I was able to borrow a little bit from them, and also I worked from high school on forward to fund my own tuition. After that, got a full-time job. Within a year, I paid back my family for everything because I couldn't live with that kind of guilt. And I'd love to see that with some of the young folks today, but we'll see how that goes, at least at home anyway, but that's okay. Just kidding. Otherwise, I went on to then 4 graduate degrees, math, science, computer science, law, everything else. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brad Cohen. I am the mayor of the Township of East Brunswick. I'm in my 10th year now as mayor. I'm also a practicing OBGYN physician. I've been in practice now a little over 30 years, although I hate to admit that. I think that the issues that you're going to be hearing today, the things that are on the agenda, are things that I have personal experience with in almost every one of those categories. After becoming a physician, working in the town for years, I ultimately applied and ran for a school board position and spent 7 years on the school board. So between my experience on the school board, my experience as a physician dealing with insurance companies, which I hope we get into that, and some of the pitfalls that we have in our systems right now, almost every one of the topics that we will be talking about today are things that I have personally worked in for now most of my career. A lot of people have started from nothing. We're living in a world right now where that's increasingly difficult for people to do, and every one of us need to be working our hardest to make sure that everybody has an opportunity.
Good morning, I am Matt Adams, and I am NJ12. So I grew up in Middlesex Borough, and I decided to stay in Middlesex Borough when I went to college and went to law school, and I decided to stay there so I could raise a family in Middlesex Borough. I have deep ties to I've worked in every single county, and I've also, my wife works at IAS in Princeton, and my son goes to TCNJ. I know this district. I have worked very hard to develop a resume so that I can support this district in every way possible. I am a retired Army Reserve Lieutenant Colonel in the JAG Corps. The executive branch has trespassed on the powers of the legislative branch. We need to fix that. We need to fix that trespass and reassert the power of the legislative branch so that we can achieve all the important goals that we're going to talk about here today. First step, retaking the legislative branch as the power of the people. I'm Matt Adams.
Good morning, my name is Adam Hamaway. I'm a father, a doctor, a veteran. My parents came to New Jersey when I was 7 months old in search for a better life. I joined the military in order to pay for college. I was a combat trauma surgeon in Iraq. I was a first responder in 9/11. Now I work in emergency rooms and take care of people here in the district, and I volunteer all over the world in war and disaster areas, most recently in Gaza. Every day I see patients that are getting crushed by the health insurance industry. In the richest country in the history of the world, no one should have to choose between their rent and paying their medical bills. We are told that we are not able to afford Medicare for all, but we always have enough money for bombs. Yes. I've seen what we are spending it on. We are spending on endless war and ICE. So I am running to fight for healthcare, not bombs, to abolish ICE and to unrig this economy so that it works for working people and not just the billionaires at the top.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Assemblywoman Verlina Reynolds Jackson, and I am the native daughter of the capital city of Trenton. My parents both are civil service workers. My father is a Vietnam War veteran, and he took me around to all of their union meetings. So of course, service is in my DNA. As I move forward, I think about my life. My mom was a genius when she put me into the YWCA, and I learned all about empowering women and eliminating racism. And as I grew up and my sorority took me to Washington, I saw this amazing action, democracy working. And so that trickled down to me, and now I'm in the legislature. I have been legislating and fighting for New Jersey. I have gotten an $80 million maternal health center right here for the state of New Jersey. And I'm fighting against Donald Trump and the SAVE Act with the John Lewis voting rights bill. Our country is in crisis. Donald Trump is costing us lives, money, and he's trying to strip away our rights. I am running for Congress to represent you, people power.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jay Beingenker. I'm 28 years old. I'm a former Joe Biden White House and Department of Energy official, and I'm running for Congress because communities like ours aren't doing well under the status quo. Right now, we're governed by Republicans who profit when ICE detains our neighbors. They profit when bombs are dropped on children. They profit when our health care is delayed and denied. And then we're told by Democrats to just be patient, wait your turn. Someone else has been around longer, someone has a lot more money, and we'll play some musical chairs and then things will go back to normal. But I'm 28 years old and my generation has never experienced normalcy in our politics. We grew up in the aftermath of 9/11, through forever wars. I was raised in a recession, I graduated in a pandemic, and now I can barely afford to live in the community I grew up in. So I'm fighting because I think our community deserves healthcare that we can all afford regardless of our ability to pay. I believe that our streets should be safe to walk, our water should be safe to drink, and our money should be used to actually lower our utility bills here at home.
Well, good morning. I am Adrian Matt, an immigrant from Barbados who grew up very poor. I am here to let you know that I will go to Washington to represent your best interests. When I came to this country, my very first job was that of a gas station attendant. I worked as a security guard, and those early experiences have informed the person that I am today. They've taught me resilience, compassion, and empathy for others. I worked in corporate for several years before entering public service. I was elected as a council person, a county commissioner, and 4 consecutive times as mayor of the city of Plainfield. And I have a reputation for getting things done. And I have earned the endorsement of Mayor Ralph Baraka and Senate President Nick Scutari. And I am running to be your voice and to advocate for more housing, immigration reform, and tax reform. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Kyle Little. I'm 37 years old, and I'm not your average politician. I'm a small business owner, and I'm an adjunct college professor at King University. I entered this race a year ago, and being the only one to actually challenge the New Jersey establishment, the political establishment. And when I tell you, as a first-time candidate, it is brutal, okay? I have been ignored. I have been ghosted. I have been, guaranteed endorsements that have been turned over to other candidates. Everything, but you know what? I'm a fighter, and I got into this race to fight. I'm going to fight for women's reproductive rights. I'm going to fight for immigrants' rights. I'm going to fight for LGBTQ communities. I'm an openly gay man, and I know whoever else's bedroom is nobody else's business. I'm going to fight for Black people and people of color, because as a descendant of slavery and as a descendant of people who built this country for free, we deserve a fighter in Washington who's going to fight for us.
Good morning. My name is Squire Servance. I'm not a politician. I'm a Rutgers-trained neuroscientist, an attorney, an entrepreneur that's launched companies and created jobs right here in this district, like many of you. I know how to step into difficult situations and get jobs done. As a matter of fact, because of my experience, I've been called down to Congress on numerous occasions to advise on healthcare and life sciences legislation. I'm also a husband and a father, part of the sandwich generation. I know what it feels like to juggle childcare, elder care, and rising costs at the same time. Our campaign has knocked on nearly 20,000 doors across the district, hearing from people like you. And matter of fact, you're the reason why we're running for Congress, why I'm running. It's so that we can fight, not talk, and deliver results for you, to expand access to healthcare, lower cost of housing. These are the things that we want in this district. The moment does not call for more talk. It calls for a new generation of leadership that's ready to step in on day one and get results. That's what I've done my entire career, and that's what I'll do in Congress.
So we heard from all of our candidates, and let's get into questions and answers. And as a reminder, candidates, I am going to state the names of the candidates for the questions, then state the question. So please, only the candidates' names that I name are able to answer those questions. If you are not named, you cannot answer those questions. We'll go from category to category. There are 3 to 4 questions for each category. So every single candidate has an opportunity to express their views for each of these main categories. For each response during these questions times, you have 60 seconds. As a reminder, as you've already seen, we go really, really fast because we have a lot of questions and our amazing audience here wants to know more information. We have our timekeeper. She has her 15 seconds, first warning, and then she has a stop card. And then she has a face that means I'm gonna meet you in the parking lot if you don't really stop, right? So you don't wanna get to that level. As one more thing for housekeeping, please everyone, we clap for all their openings, which is fine, but we wanna keep things moving and also make sure we create a space of neutrality. So please, no claps after these answers, no cheers, even if they speak to you. Let's reserve all the claps and audiences or responses to the end, okay? And on top of that, please, everyone turn either your phone off or silent. And what I'll do is I'll give people about 5 or 7 seconds to make sure that your phones are off. We want to give them as much respect as possible so they are not interrupted. Okay? Thank you. All right, so let's get started. So the first category, this is a very important one. It is economic opportunity in small business. Now, this first question is for Cohen, Altman, Adams, Mapp, and Reynolds-Jackson. Now, here's the question. District 12 includes urban centers like Trenton and Plainfield, as well as suburban and rural communities. What is your concrete plan to grow small businesses across this diverse district? Let's start with Cohen.
Well, first of all, I think that the best medicine is someone who already knows how to do it. We have worked in our community in East Brunswick to turn around a community that had areas that had fallen into disrepair. We need to work in conjunction with the community, in conjunction with developers, in conjunction with banks, in conjunction with your local elected officials, and we were able to actually turn around blighted communities in a way that provided for affordable housing, provided for housing that's affordable, because those are 2 different things. We've also been able to provide then economic opportunity for the township to reinvest in its education and in its programs and in ways that enrich the community. And it could be a win for everybody, but it means that you have to work in conjunction and as teams, which often we do not do.
Altman, next, please.
Our American city, is that on? There we go, sorry. Our American cities, specifically here in New Jersey, have been downstream of decades of racism, segregation, disinvestment, deindustrialization, and it is appalling the difference in quality of life between some of our inner cities and some of their surrounding suburbs, sometimes only a distance of a couple of miles. When I lived in Camden, I saw firsthand how large corporations extracted wealth from our cities, giving nothing back, sometimes not even jobs. When I am in Congress, I will work in a committed, vociferous way to make sure we are returning value to the people in our communities. There's an incredible talent, incredible opportunity in these cities. They are beautiful places. We can make them pop with the right investment. When I'm in Congress, I will fight hard for that.
Adams.
So in Congress, I will strengthen the Minority Business Development Act, which really addresses some of the most critical issues, which is number 1, access to capital. Okay, so we need to give small business owners the opportunity to get the funding necessary. I believe that we also need to address healthcare for our small businesses as well. Small businesses are trying so hard to keep up and pay for healthcare for their employees. If we can fix the healthcare system through universal healthcare, we can help our small businesses and they can better thrive. I was in the American Legion, which is a small business, and after COVID, we had to get a small business loan. and it essentially saved us. We need that type of funding to help all of our small businesses. Thank you.
I heard you, John Harmon, at the beginning when you talked about opportunities. And so it's equity that we're fighting for. We're talking about the disparity study. We're talking about auto insurance reform. We're talking about making sure we have access to capital. We're talking about making sure that the small business development centers has funding to come back to our capital cities. We know the redlining that happens, and you need a champion like myself that understand the rules that are playing against us instead of for us. And so I will continue to fight to increase those PLAs that you talked about. I am the current sponsor for the New Jersey auto insurance reform. I'm fighting for that right now. I'll continue that fight in Washington because it's unfair. The redlining that happens when we go with housing and businesses, access to capital is everything for a small business. I am your champion, and that's what I'll fight for when I go to Washington.
Thank you. And Matt.
We have to make sure that we level the playing field and that we provide access to capital for our small businesses. We also need to reform our tax code so that it doesn't work only for billionaires and big corporations. So we need to provide tax incentives. We need also to make sure that our small businesses have access to healthcare. We know that as a result of not extending the Affordable Care Act credit, that thousands, millions of people no longer have health care. And that has affected small businesses more so than most other businesses. And so we have an obligation to make sure that we extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies so that small businesses can afford insurance for their employees as well as for themselves. And if we do that, we would be supporting our small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. Let's move on to the next question. This next question is for Kyle Little and Dr. Hemingway. Now, we're going to restrict the policies. So what policies, especially federal policies, would you support to increase access to capital for minority-owned and women-owned businesses? Let's start with Dr. Hemingway.
So we need to make sure that communities thrive regardless of their zip code. I'm a small business owner, and I struggled to find capital, even though I was a doctor and I had just served in the military. It was only as a veteran going to try to get an SBA loan that I was able to get something to get started. So already working in a disadvantage, Black and minority businesses are even working harder. And so what I would do is I would increase funding for federal SBA loans to Black and minority-owned businesses so that, and we also reform the lending practices so that they could get a fair shake and get access to capital.
Thank you. Little?
I'm glad I got this question. I am a Black business owner in the state of New Jersey. I'm the owner of Isolation Fitness. So I own 2 fitness studios. One is in Edison and one is in Metuchen. And I can tell you, New Jersey is great for small businesses. I work with the NJEDA all the time. But from a federal level, we get no federal funding whatsoever. So I can tell you firsthand, first off, we would have to have a grant on a federal level for small businesses, especially when it goes into starting up a small business. So we need a $25,000 grant, first of all, for first-time small business owners who want to open up their first location, whatever they need. And then we need grants specifically for minority-owned businesses, because I can tell you that Black people are 13.6% of the United States population, yet we're only 3% of small business owners. And we know that small businesses are the backbone of our economy. And right now, we are currently seeing all the tax cuts be given to these large corporations. So if the large corporations can get these major tax cuts, so can small businesses. I want to be able to pay less than 8% as well.
Thank you very much. Now let's shift to what would be your influence if you were in this role. So this question is for Amelie, Wang, and Weidenkar. What committees would you seek to serve on? Why, and what will be your plan? And let's start with Amelie.
All right. The finance committee, of course. is one of my primary things. Just a little more background is I spent many years on Wall Street and then having gone back to law school, became an attorney. So I have 24 years of that, 16 in the previous career. I've been all about projects for looking at government budgets, municipal all the way up to federal. And so as far as what could be done with the committee, this is sort of the other side of some of the previous questions where we're talking about allocating to the proper efforts. Startup grants, loans, small business loans. I'm also a solo practitioner. I have my own small business. Those are the things to get people up and running. And then we have to get out of the way with tax incentives and breaks to be able to allow those businesses to grow, hire more people. We have one of the highest unemployment rates of any state in the country. We need to fix all that so everybody's out working. One of the worst dirty words in politics for many politicians is self-sufficiency. That's what I'm looking to do all across the board. Thank you.
Thank you. This is such a good question. It gets to the root of how one works as a member of Congress. Many years ago, I worked in the House for a first-term Congressman, Lloyd Doggett. That was before I went over to work for Senator Kennedy. What I learned there is that it is very hard for a first-term member of Congress to make progress. I have a fairly specific idea of how I'm going to do this. Often the Science Committee is not considered a top assignment. And so the good news is it is easy for a first-term member of Congress to get on that committee. And there have been so many attacks on science, on health, on vaccines, on drug safety, that I think there's a lot of repairs to be made there. There's a lot of future to be built there, and I'm hoping to help out with that. There's another committee that's very important. It's one that actually handles a variety of things, including Veterans Affairs and also, again, health. And that's going to be another interesting committee for me. The other way that I can help is to use my own expertise. I told you before that I've worked on gerrymandering reform. I've worked against the county line. I've built a business with the ideas that I've developed at Princeton University. And I'm hoping to put my ideas in the service of more senior members of Congress who really have the power and authority and serve them to help serve you. Thank you.
So I'm sure in the past year, all of you have watched our utility bills double or triple in the past year. And that's in part because of these data centers that have come into our communities. They don't create many jobs. They take up all our water and energy supply. It's also because folks in Washington have made it harder for us to build new clean energy here in New Jersey to create local union-based jobs. And when I worked in the Biden administration, I worked on a $400 billion clean energy investment, the largest climate investment in US history. And then when Donald Trump came in, the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, he tore it apart and sent that money to ICE. Every time you see a child being kidnapped on our streets, you are paying for that in our utility bills. So I want to go to the Committee of Energy and Commerce, and I want to abolish ICE, take that money and restore it back to clean energy so that we can create union jobs here at home where folks in our community can build new clean energy and lower our utility bills.
Thank you for those responses. Now let's keep going and let's talk about, if in this role, what is some legislation that you will focus on? So for our remaining two, Robinson and Servants, the question is, what is one piece of legislation that you would introduce or support in your first term? Let's go, Robinson.
Our very own Monty Watson Coleman is sponsoring universal basic income, which is being piloted in 16 states across the country. That is to help to close the poverty gap where people are getting stipends and can be given a hand up, not a hand out. So I would sponsor that bill and make sure it's funded. I know you said one, but I have time. So the other one would be Housing for All Act. It has been introduced by the Senator Padilla in California, and it needs to be fully funded. We have a healthcare crisis, a housing crisis, affordability crisis with access to healthcare, education, housing, immigration, but nonetheless, we have to fight for policies that support the people.
Thank you.
So the goal is economic empowerment for our communities. That's where we want to be. And I think you need to do that with respect to addressing red tape that we're seeing in this community. I think overall, the government needs to support our entrepreneurs and startup founders that are focused on so we can lower the cost of living. But I also believe that we need to have more access to capital. Did we know that less than 1%, half of 1% of VC dollars actually goes to Black women founders? We know that less than 3% go to Black and brown founders. We need to address this disparity. We need to call for something larger, that's more institutional dollars that are that are, I call it, whether it be state or federal funded, a sovereign wealth fund that actually will invest and create opportunities for entrepreneurs in our communities, something that gives us accountability, something that gives us transparency so that we can create, so that we all have access to capital and to build communities and companies for our communities and live a good life. Thank you.
Thank you so for all the candidates for answering those questions. Now let's shift to a topic that is very important, especially with the rise of AI and the influence of AI. And this category is jobs, workforce, and returning citizens. Now, this first question is for Matt, Altman, Reynolds-Jackson, and Mile. And this is a question that directly affects this district. So this first question is, what is your plan to create more jobs in high-need areas in District 12, like Trenton and Plainfield? And let's go with Matt first.
I think it's extremely important that we invest in housing. And we know that there is a significant need across the state where we are 220,000 units short of housing. So we need to invest in housing. And I believe that if we do that by attracting more local housing tax credit to come to the state in order for developers to build the housing, jobs will be created, unions will get to be at work on the jobs, and we will be fixing one of New Jersey's largest problems. So that is an area that deserves a great deal of attention. And if we invest in that area, we would solve many problems. Not only will we be creating the housing that is needed across the entire district, but putting people to work is extremely important.
Thank you. Altman?
One of the scariest parts of this whole AI thing, and if you're like me, you don't trust these tech CEOs at all, is that it could displace up to a third of our workforce, which will have devastating effects all over our communities. So we have to invest in training. We cannot make the mistakes that we've made in the past, which is when we shut down factories or we move jobs overseas. The people who had those jobs are just left with nothing to ease the blow, nothing for them to take home and sink their teeth into to build their life through this difficult transition. We've abandoned communities before during technological innovation, and we cannot do it again. I will invest in job training. I will invest in investment in these communities for small businesses so people have the ability to build their own lives on their own terms. And finally, we have to increase the minimum wage because we cannot have people living below what is truly a living wage. It is not fair, and the billionaires are capitalizing on all of that value.
Thank you.
So I believe in second chances. We have a lot of money for workforce development, but it continues to get cut. And then we have the audacity to have barriers to say, if you have a criminal record, you can't participate in these type of job programs. If we really want to have workforce development, we would need to remove those barriers that stop people from getting into the workforce in the beginning. We have an opportunity now to increase those dollars. We should, for the workforce development, those are federal dollars that come in. I know this because I'm a workforce development expert. I've been doing this work for over 30 years, inside and outside of government. I've seen the challenges that happen. But we can talk about solar, we can talk about AI, we can talk about tech. These are all fields that people can do, and we need bodies to do them. We need the person like myself with the courage to speak up about the barriers that are stopping people from entering into the workforce, and I am that person.
Thank you. Elaine, please.
I said before about tax incentives for companies, small and medium businesses to set up shop here instead of leaving like so many are or failing. And that leads to the employment opportunities. The other part of it is technology is an unstoppable wave that is going to continue throughout humanity. In the past, when that's happened and industries or at least career paths have been shut down by that evolution, people have adapted. Some are near the end of the career maybe, and they just finish that there and they don't continue. But for younger people still in the workforce, we need to still work for many years. They find the incentives, the ideas to basically start new industries and new career paths. We meet the challenge all the time. That's what has to happen now. And that's one of the big focuses for me in terms of tax revenue is to set up, I call it enablement programs, but it's a different meaning of the word enablement. It's offering retraining in new and budding industries and careers so that people can stay ahead and stay self-sufficient.
Thank you so much. Now let's move on. And this is a topic that is very important to the Chamber. As you all know, the African American Chamber of Commerce is a leader in this city of training and workforce development, especially with their award-winning Mobile Academy. So this question is for Adams, Cohen, and Little. How would you expand apprenticeship, skilled trades, and training technology training pipelines for our district? So again, the question is, how would you expand apprenticeship, skilled trades, and technology training pipelines for this district? And we'll go Adam first.
So we need to focus on keeping our youth in our communities by incenting businesses as well as our educational institutions to work with our youth. I would add, there are many, many business opportunities where internships would be welcome. It's a low-paying but great opportunity for young people to learn a trade as well as to help this particular business succeed. I believe that keeping our youth from leaving also requires that we have opportunities for housing and transportation. And so if we can improve in those areas, we can retain our youth in our communities so that they stay and they help rebuild that community.
Thank you. Cohen?
As in everything, it always starts with the kids. We need to be making sure that our children have the opportunities to know what's in front of them and what's available. Many times we have agencies that already do these things, but they don't talk to one another. They sit in silos. We really need to be working hard to make sure that the opportunities that already exist and the ones that we can create reach our youth. Once they know what's available to them, they need to know there's other opportunities besides college. We need to continue to invest in vocational schools, which give kids skills that they can be used immediately. And then finally, we need to work with our business community to make sure that they provide incentives for programs and apprenticeship programs so that students have a path from the very early age to the time that they really enter the workforce that allows them the opportunity to build generational wealth from the very beginning.
Thank you. Little?
So I'm an adjunct college professor, and I also am a small business owner. And being a small business owner, I provide internships for my students and for a lot of other students in the exercise science department. So I know firsthand that we need to first all crack down on these colleges, because colleges do not make it easy for these kids to get I shouldn't call them kids, students, to get internships. So we have to make sure that these colleges are reaching out to these local businesses, reaching out to people who can, so that kids can get that experience in the field of choice and end up learning skills that they need to actually end up doing these jobs later on. Because as students graduate college, they get jobs that helps provide back into the economy. So it all goes full circle. All right. So that's what we need to do. Again, we always have to open our doors for young people to be able to get the opportunity and gain the skills that they need.
Thank you so much. So now let's shift to a focus on how can we support people with disadvantaged backgrounds and struggled backgrounds. This question is for Robinson, Dr. Hemwee, Servants, Lang, and Weigenkar. The question is, what policies would you support to remove employment barriers for returning citizens or those with difficult backgrounds? Let's go with Robinson first, please.
It's a delay. I would start with banning the box. Government has overreached in putting up barriers for those needing to be returning citizens to be able to have a sustainable life, a livable wage, be able to put food on the table, a roof over their head, gas to get to work, access to quality health care. All of these things impact our quality of life, and they are no different. If they have served their time and they paid for their crimes, who are we to put up barriers from them being able to have that quality of life that we all deserve, restoring the American dream? That's one of the policies I would support in making sure that those are returning citizens have an opportunity to have that American dream.
Thank you. Doctor?
We need to end discriminatory practices for returning citizens. We need to be able to offer them job opportunities that are fair and give them the opportunity to be reintegrated in society and to contribute to our communities. We need to also increase the federal minimum wage. No one who's working 40 hours a week, whether you're a returning citizen or anyone else, should be struggling in poverty. We need to tie it to the cost of living, and it should increase every year so that they could keep up with being able to live.
Thank you. Service?
I think underlying this question is really, public safety. And I think public safety and justice really go hand in hand. And for often too long, criminal justice in our society has been, defined by disparities and enforcement and sentencing and opportunity. And so we need to make a strong look at how we're going to keep our community safe, specifically with respect to our communities and reentry and recidivism. We actively need to invest in those programs. We can't. The goal is to keep our community safe. We need to have pathways for them to specifically come back and reintegrate into society in a meaningful way so they can be contributing citizens. And look, I have experience in getting results throughout my career, particularly as a lawyer. This is an area that I would focus on. I know how to get results and I know how to get them. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one of the highest rates of incarceration in the world. I've started a nonprofit organization, the Electoral Innovation Lab, and that organization is dedicated to help people with voting rights and make sure everyone has as much of an equal voice as possible. One of the ways that people returning to society can make an impact and be reintegrated is to make sure that they have those paths to voting rights, to economic rights. Next door, we have a little building inside a church in Princeton, New Jersey. Next door is the P.D. Green Foundation. The P.D. Green Foundation is dedicated to prison education and helping people get a leg up and come back into society. Holding down people who want to re-enter society is a way to hold down voting rights. It's a way to hold down representation. And we need to work as hard as we can to make sure that these men and women who've served their time, who want to re-enter, have every opportunity to express themselves through their vote and through work. And I will follow paths to do that through voting rights and workforce training.
Thank you.
A lot of this conversation is about where does capital go? When there's investment, is it going to everyday people? Is it going to folks who have actually suffered from the structural and systemic racism that has put so many people in jail? And we've seen blips of progressive hope. We've seen the First Step Act. We've seen legalized cannabis. But where is that money going? Where are the benefits of those changes going? We need to make sure the industries that benefit from social change, progressive change, and criminal justice reform are going to folks who are returning citizens. And that's why I believe we need to tax the billionaires, we need to tax the AI companies, and we need to treat these taxes and these additional funds for people who have benefited from large-scale generational wealth as a form of reparations. And that money should be going to HBCUs, it should be going to retraining folks who have lost their jobs from AI, it should go to folks who have been victims of redlining, and it also needs to be earmarked specifically for retraining and reintegrating returning citizens back into our communities. We can ban the box, but we also need to fund the programs to make sure that we're reducing recidivism in our communities.
Thank you so much. Now let's move on to a topic that I think we probably in this room are all probably passionate and concerned about. When we go to the grocery store, we look at our receipts, young generation, families. And this topic is housing and cost of living. Now, I see you guys nodding your head as if you were ready for this topic, so you guys are ready to get going. So this first question is for Reynolds Jackson, Warren, and Mealy. The question is, housing affordability is a major concern in District 12. What solutions would you advance to address rising rents and home prices? And let's start with Reynolds Jackson, please.
First of all, we need to go after Donald Trump with all these tariffs. What's happening is the cost to build now has tripled that. So my focus would be on making sure that we get those additional resources from housing, from the HUD programs to make sure that we can build. I'm also focused on the choice program here. which we need another $30 million to revitalize a community in the North Ward. Those are federal dollars that we're currently fighting for, and I will continue to fight for. We have a housing crisis. We haven't built. And so now we have a low supply and high demand. And so that's what's causing that's what's causing these rates to go up so high. I would continue to fight for that. And also making sure that we have additional supplies, making sure we have those PLAs, making sure we have local contractors that are able to participate in this program. That's why I'm a support community benefit programs as well, so that we can make sure that we have the housing we need. And thank you.
There's a literal answer to this question having to do with legislation, unblocking affordable housing legislation in Washington, helping local initiatives such as faith-based initiatives to help occupy unoccupied units. But I want to back up a step and talk about deep structural problems in Washington that are making it impossible for us to afford living. In case you haven't noticed, there are increasingly random and erratic acts from the administration. Tariffs that get imposed, hundreds of billions of dollars. Corporations are going to get that money back. We're not going to get that money back. You and I are paying $20 more per tank of gas than we did several months ago because of a random, ill-thought-out war where the president doesn't even know how to surrender competently. Okay, so we have some serious issues with random policies. And to the affordability issue, these policies, if pursued randomly, will cause interest rates to go up, which makes a really bad problem for us to be able to afford housing. We need stability, and we need Congress to reassert itself, and that's going to create long-term stability that will help all of us to be able to afford life better.
Thank you. Okay, one thing we do have to pay attention to is the consequences of some actions too. There are balances to be struck. As far as the affordability issues in general, part of what affects that is hikes in minimum wage for either low or no skilled kind of jobs that were never meant to support a family. But that just leaves us where now the real costs of businesses, especially small businesses that are extremely marginalized, are even tighter squeezed. And so we have to have increases for the wage, for example, at the same time keeping in mind that certainly not any small business owners I know are multi-billionaires. That's a different group, and they should pay more. But those small businesses struggle to survive, or they go to automation, and then you lose jobs entirely. So we do have to deal with that. And that's also as far as the utilities, the electric shut down. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's go to our next question. And this question is for Robinson, Altman, and Adams. What is your plan to increase affordable housing supply without overburdening local property tax payers? Robinson first.
Repeat the question.
Yes, the question is, what is your plan to increase affordable housing supply without overburdening local property taxpayers?
In Somerset County, we've done just that. Our preservation plan was recognized for smart growth in areas of land use, economic development, and resiliency. And this is a holistic framework. And we could do the same for Trenton and any town or any municipality within the district. And what that means is a layered approach to building back better. Some of the building blocks are already in place for Trenton, where in the South Broad Street corridor is already been provided by the NJEDA, and that's in the form of $17 million. But nonetheless, we have to be able to take these smart growths and be able to do it, repeat what works well, and continue to do smart planning. And in the military, it taught me, if nothing else, strategic and planning and tactical and execution. And that's who I would be as a leader for smart growth.
Oh man, this question really fires me up, because what we've seen in other cities around this state and around this country is that when building happens, it happens not for the people who already live there. It happens for the really rich people who want to come, move on in, and jack up the prices and the taxes for everybody else. What about the people who've been committed to that neighborhood for decades? How are they going to be served by this development? Who is the development for? Here in Trenton, 40%, I think, maybe close to 50% of the land is owned by the state of New Jersey, which does not generate a dollar of taxpayer money. And yet you expect Trenton to be able to fill those gaps and serve their communities at the same level as other states. That is just a systemic inequity, and it makes me absolutely furious that this has not been solved. So when I go to Washington, I will fight for our cities to make sure they can develop equitably, keeping in mind the tens of thousands of people who've always lived there and who have been dedicated to that city and who love it and call it home.
Thank you. And Adams?
Congress is the power of the purse. We have the power to allocate not only money, but credits so that we can direct where we want important things to happen. So in this case, we would want to direct money to credits so that we would incentivize builders to build in our cities. I would also say we need to work on infrastructure. So for instance, the West Trenton line. Does anyone know about the West Trenton line? If we can give funding so that way the West Trenton line can be reinvigorated, we can encourage smart growth around train stations to include here in Trenton, but also throughout NJ-12. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, this last question in this category is for servants, wagon car, Mapp, Little, Dr. Hemingway, and Cohen. And this kind of brings everything together. So what are your solutions to reduce the cost of living and expenses for this district's communities and their families? And let's go with the servants first, please.
Yeah, we've knocked on close to 20,000 doors across this district, and by far the number one issue that comes up is the cost of living and affordability in this state, in this district. I think we need to be smart and tactical about how we approach to address that. I think we need to lower housing costs. That just means increasing the supply. And well, that's one of the big ways to do. We need to lower healthcare costs. We need to make sure that we're negotiating drug prices, providing for hospital billing transparency, and reducing the cost of premiums and out-of-pocket expenses. We also need to focus on household costs and those items. We need to figure out a way to address this inflation issue. That means investing in jobs and companies that are addressing the supply chain in this state, so that we can reduce some of those supply chain constraints in this district and provides for better prices for our household items. In addition to the cost, we also need to create jobs that are meaningful, that have high salaries, that are people going to come in and do it. Now, look, I'm an entrepreneur. I've had experience creating jobs in this district, and I do that as your congressman.
Thank you.
So here in New Jersey, we have the highest rate in the country of young adults still living with their parents. It's almost half. And when I go and knock doors around our district, I talk to so many parents who tell me, Jay, you're my son's age. I feel like your generation, my kids did everything right. You went to a decent school, you worked hard, you found a decent job, and you still live at home because the starter homes here are $800,000. People tell me, Jay, we got to get you elected to the House so our kids can get out of the house. And this is why I support bills like the Housing for the 21st Century Act, because we need to make it easier to build more housing in places like New Jersey, one of the most dense states in the country. We need to make it easier to bring on and train new workers to build more housing. We have to end Trump's draconian deportations that have reduced our housing supply, the things he's done to deport workers who could actually build more. We have to get rid of the Trump tariffs that have made it harder to get steel and lumber. And we have to prevent Wall Street firms like BlackRock from buying up all the apartments, buying up all the housing supply, and then jacking up the rent on our communities.
Thank you. Matt, please.
It's housing, it's taxes, and healthcare. We have to make sure that we build more housing so that the demand and supply curve can meet. Housing cost is one of the highest expenses facing the people in this state and in this district. And if we're able to reduce that cost, we would go a long way in making life more affordable for all of the people in this district. Taxes is a burden on our people. We have to or should be willing to support Senator Cory Booker's bill, which would increase the standard deduction to $75,000. Imagine a standard deduction of $75,000. It means that millions of people will not have to pay taxes, especially people that are burdened with the affordability crisis. We also need to reduce the burden of student loan debt. And so if we do some of these things, life would be more affordable for the people in this district.
Thank you. Little, please.
So there's a few things I want to mention. First off, we need to, when I get to Congress, I'm definitely voting for a $20 minimum wage. That's the first thing. Second of all, we need free childcare. Okay, the average family in New Jersey is paying over $19,000 a year, and that's 13% of families' net income. So we need free childcare because a parent should be able to go to work or go to school if they want to, and be able to afford to have somebody pay for take care of their kids. We also need student loan debt forgiveness. I know firsthand. When my husband and I went to buy our first home, I owe $75,000 worth of student loan debt. And they told me they didn't even want me to be on a mortgage at first because my debt to income ratio was too high. So when we have student loan debt forgiveness, people could be able to buy a house or buy a car, and it should not stay on your credit report. We also need a $25,000 grant for first-time home buyers, okay? That's one thing that I will definitely vote for when I get to Congress, because as people own homes, they are able to pass down that generational wealth. Thank you.
Dr. Hemingway, please.
There's many things we could do. We could restore the child tax credit. We know it works. It decreased child poverty by half, but we will let it expire. And that's a choice that we made. We could increase federal funding for housing to increase the supply. We've been blocking federal funding for affordable housing with the Fair Clause Amendment for decades. That would help. We need to pass Medicare for all. Medical bills should not be one of the things that we have to pay for. Look at our gas prices right now. It's gone up over the last 2 months because of illegal and immoral wars. These are things that we could do. Universal child care. There's so many choices that we are making today that could be helping our communities, and instead we're just funding more wars, more bombs, and more bad things to our community.
Thank you. And Cohen?
There are a bunch of things we could do, and many of these things were great ideas. First of all, when you get to Congress, we gotta stop the tariffs. The tariffs are causing increases in food costs. They're causing our building costs to go up, and it makes it very difficult to get anything done after that. Second thing, obviously some kind of universal healthcare system, something that provides everybody with an opportunity for equal access to healthcare. I have patients that have to go to the pharmacy, only pick up 3 pills at a time because they can't afford their whole prescription. That's uncalled for. We need to be able to have a system that allows business people to hire people and not have to worry that the cost of their healthcare prevents them from hiring someone to begin with. And then we need a much fairer tax system. We have never had this wealth gap since Teddy Roosevelt broke up the trusts. So we need to do that. If we do it, we could have the things like childcare and be able to provide loans and debt repayment or debt forgiveness and the ability for people to actually afford college. And we could all talk about eliminating debt. We need to make college more affordable.
Thank you so much. Now let's move on to a topic that's very important for our young people and our parents and our partner in this college, which is education and youth. And this question is for Wagenkar, Servants, Altman, and Cohen. And the question is, how can you provide solutions for increase of funding for pre-K and other youth and parent support programs?
All right, great. A question about young folks and young people in the workforce. I know a thing or two about young people in the workforce. I've been one since I was 18. And I think it's really important to recognize that our generation is going through challenges that no prior generation has ever experienced, right? We've seen the typical issues of healthcare, immigration, and housing. And now on top of that, we have these tech algorithms that take up all our data. We have all these doom scrolling that has destroyed our mental health and exposed our data to the world. And so what we need is a massive wealth redistribution in this country to fix and fund the inequities that are disproportionately harming generations like mine. And that means a tax on the billionaires to fund universal college and education and universal pre-K. And we have to be very specific about how we tax the billionaires because we don't want them cheating around and trying to move their wealth abroad. We've got to increase taxes on capital gains. We've got to prevent them from taking out loans on unrealized assets. And we've got to prevent them from buying up our housing stock. If we can actually force the wealthy to pay their fair share and distribute that money to everyday folks, we can get the solutions we need.
Thank you. Servants?
I guess you started because this is young, was the younger core. I'm 43. I am part of. I am a millennial technically, right here, my full support. But look, education is the engine for economic mobility for our communities. I think we need to make sure we're investing in pre-K and universal pre-K for our communities from K through 12. I serve on the board at Rutgers University, and we found ways at Rutgers to make sure that any low-income student that wants to come and attend Rutgers that gets in can attend for free. That is the program. We did it at Rutgers. We can do it across the state. I also think we need to address fairness. Your zip code should not determine the opportunities. I think hopefully that's not a controversial statement. And I feel like there's ways we need to address that. And I think we should specifically look for what are those disparities, and then spend some time and effort trying to make sure we're addressing it. And as your congressman, that's what I would focus on.
Thank you. Altman, please.
Another fellow millennial here. So I'm a former teacher. And the reason I was even in the audience that day with Chris Christie is because I was so irritated at the hypocrisy of this guy. Here he was coming in, talking smack about teachers, cutting stuff at school, art, music, after school programs. At the same time, his own kids were attending a very nice prep school where they had all those things in droves. And I knew that what our students and what our teachers need is support. There is absolutely no reason why every student in New Jersey and every teacher can't have autonomy and new buildings and great materials to teach with and wonderful mental health programs and after school programs. The answer isn't stick your kids in front of technology and have them absorb content. The answer is investing in people and families and schools and education. And that is the basis of the American dream.
Thank you. And Cohen, please.
Well, the question was about how we're going to fund it. These are all great programs and they all cost money. So the way that we fund it is recognizing that we have a wealth gap. We need to tax people that are billionaires in a way that helps redistribute wealth and opportunities to people that isn't socialism, it's just fairness that allows for those opportunities to be made to other people. I think we should also be looking at some of the finance firms that during the recession, we as taxpayers bailed them out. It's time that they pay forward and provide some opportunities in the way that we fund our education, provide low interest loans or no interest loans, help people reduce their student debt or eliminate their student debt. We also have a bevy of healthcare and pharmaceutical companies in this state, in our particular county, our particular region. These are individuals that are doing quite well. All of that would be able to fund things like childcare and the educational opportunities in vocational schools and student loan. These are all these great programs. We have to fund it.
Thank you so much for those answers. Let's move on to the next question. This is for MAP and Wang. What federal investment should be prioritized for youth leadership and career readiness programs?
We must invest in our schools. That's where it starts in terms of our youth. And so we must provide a level of funding to all of our schools so that they can put the programs in place to teach and to train our young people for workforce readiness. I believe that we have been not invested at the level in our public schools that we ought to be. And so if we are able to fund our public schools at the level that they deserve to be funded, there could be programs that can be created. There can be investments in the trade. We have seen the trade disappear from our schools, and we need to bring that back. And we can do that if funding is at the appropriate level so that public schools can prioritize these kinds of investments. We cannot continue to ignore the need for investments in the trade.
Thank you.
My parents immigrated to the United States, fleeing authoritarian rule, seeking a better life for themselves and eventually our family when we were born. My siblings and I grew up in California. I remember one of my first political experience was in 1979 when a thing called Proposition 13 was on the ballot. And I was, I guess I was 12 years old, so a little younger than Jay. And I passed out literature against Proposition 13 to try to stop the cuts to education. And whatever, sorry, Jay. That was terrible, I apologize, I just couldn't help it. But public schools are the backbone of how youth can get ahead. And I really treasured public education. We need to make sure that youth get the education they need, whether it be media literacy or dealing with the AI, handling what's true and not true, harnessing this technology to work for all of us to help build a future. And I'm going to stop the Department of Education attacks to make sure that all children have this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Now let's move on to a question that I am very interested, as someone who's still paying my student loans off, of your answers. And this is for Adams, Dr. Hemley, and Little. Where do you stand, very simply, where do you stand on student loan forgiveness? Let's go with Adams first.
Of course. I'm not a fan of student loan forgiveness. I believe it needs to be tied to your financial situation first and foremost. I believe that we should definitely encourage students who want to come back to the area that they left to stay there. And if we can incentivize those students to come back to Trenton, say for example, and then we could perhaps consider student loan forgiveness for a portion, or to the extent they want to stay for longer, even more of their student loans. But there has to be a bit of a trade-off to bring those students back where we need them most.
Thank you. Dr. Hamilton?
I support canceling student loan debt. This would go a long way to decreasing and minimizing the racial wealth gap. We should also have tuition-free public college. Why, again, this is like healthcare. Why in this country does everyone have to pay for a basic education? And then the question always comes back is, how are we gonna pay for this? Well, we're spending $1 trillion on our Department of War. And we're already we're ahead of the next 9 countries behind us in terms of war spending for wars that are immoral and that we don't need and only hurt us here. So we should just take a fraction of that. We'd still be #1 and we'd be able to afford all these programs.
Thank you. So this last question in education and youth has to deal directly, I'm sorry, Little.
Well, I kind of mentioned it before anyway, saying that I'm all in favor of student loan debt forgiveness. But to be more concrete on that, I think that when students graduate college, automatically they should be inserted into an income-driven repayment program. Because what happens is students are graduating from college and they're automatically forced to pay $800 a month in student loans. So it should be a student income-driven repayment program that has no more than 10% of your income, and that's how much money you should pay in student loan debt. Second of all, once you have been paying that for 20 years, that's when your student loan debt should be totally forgiven. Now, I also am in support of free college tuition as well, because if that's the case, we wouldn't have to pay student loans anyway. But if you are forced to go to school to get a good job in this state or in this country, tuition should be free.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. For our last question, education and youth, this is for Robinson, Reynolds Jackson, and Mealy. Now, a lot of our young people are struggling with their grades and graduation rates, and that's due to things like absenteeism, tardiness, lack of family support. So this question is, what needs to be done to remedy these things like absenteeism for our youth support? And we can start with Robinson, please.
So the question is, what can we do to reduce absenteeism?
Yes.
Give support, policies, and funding in making sure that families who may not have an opportunity, like some or most, the ability to have what they need in order to to reduce absenteeism. It's not a catch-all. It's not a cookie-cutting way of doing it. Everybody's situation is different. Whether they can't afford food on the table, whether they can't afford the roof over their head. We need, and I do this now as a county leader, wraparound services that meet the demands and the needs of the people, whether it's through access to healthcare, whether it's through food insecurity, whether it's through assistance for housing, electricity, or utility bills. But that's where we need to start. In Somerset County, we have invested in programs in infrastructure, access to healthcare, housing, education, and the like. And if you continue to invest in those programs where people are needed the most, then that's where you start to reduce those absentees.
Thank you. Vice Jackson.
I've heard directly from our superintendents about absenteeism. I'm currently the chair of education in the New Jersey Assembly. And so I know when we talk about mental health services, family support, what those dollars look like coming in. I fight for those to make sure they're a part of our budget, but we get those dollars from the federal government. It's important that we continue to have those wraparound services and invest in programs right here, like the Upward Bound program. The TRIO works. I am TRIO. I'm a first generation grad. My mom was supported by programs like this, and many of the students that go here, they're adults. They have families at home, and they get those supportive services right here at the community college. I will continue to fight for those dollars from the federal government when I go to Congress. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, a couple of things. First, school choice. That is something all around the state I keep hearing that everybody wants. And competition breeds excellence. There is no other way around that. Okay, so we have to allow that. So at least voucher programs or whatever, so that people have options. The competition will keep the school districts that are not functioning well either in line to improve, or they will fail and be restructured again at a later date as a new entity, hopefully better prepared. Otherwise, for decades, and now my kids are grown, but when I was a young parent, the school budgets, voting every year, the guilt trip, yes, it's our children, we do all love them, we want to give whatever money that is asked for. But it all went over a long time to what became bloated administrations, and the teachers still buy their own supplies. Where is that? In this country, how can we have that? It's ridiculous.
Thank you very much. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is infrastructure and transportation and energy. And this question is for servants, Matt, Cohen, Dr. Hemway, Weingarger, Little. What is your position on funding for clean energy, climate resistance, and infrastructure improvement projects in New Jersey?
Look, we have to double down on this. We need to be investing in clean tech jobs. And I think if you're doing it that way, that not only creates jobs for the future, but it also helps reduce emissions in our community. We also need to be investing in infrastructure. I was out canvassing in Middlesex Borough, and they have a flood wall there. Those are the types of programs and infrastructure assessment that build resilience for our communities, that helps keep our community safe and protects us against what is going on now. Because the reality is climate change is no longer theoretical. We see it every day. Right, and the last thing I'll say is we need to make sure we need to keep costs in checks, because we're doing this for a reason, right? We need to make sure that if we're going to be investing in clean tech and clean energy jobs in our environment, we need to do so in an appropriate way that keeps costs in checks. But I have experience in getting results throughout my career, and again, as your congressman, I would make sure that we would get this thing done.
Thank you. Matt?
Always searching for the microphone. We have to invest in clean energy. We must invest in things like battery storage, solar energy. We must also harness the energy from the ocean waves. We must invest in things like wind energy. There is so much that we can do to reduce our carbon footprint. We have to invest in battery storage. And we must also make sure that as we're talking about investment, that we shore up our bridges. Our infrastructure is crumbling. We have seen the number of times when Highway 295 and 78, we had significant issues with crumbling highways. And if we invest in maintaining our highways, we would see the kinds of devastation on our highways as we have been seeing. But we owe it to our citizens, to this district, to make sure that we put the funding in place. Green energy, a green economy, those are things that are extremely important.
Thank you very much. Colin, please.
Well, in regards to transportation, that is a key component, as I spend all the time talking about how we live in silos. There's a reason why we can't fill our affordable housing units down in South Jersey. The reason is because there's not jobs. And the reason there's not jobs down there is because there's no affordable public transportation in that area of our state. So transportation is a critical function, not only in a way that provides jobs in areas that we don't have them, but improve them in the areas where we do, the more densely populated parts of the state where it is crumbling and it needs help. And we could do it in a way that's 21st century and is an environmentally safe way. When it comes to the environment, again, we can't just kill the jobs that are out there. We have to move into new technologies, whether it's solar or wind or any of these other options. You move away from one, add to the other. It creates jobs that don't even exist right now. These are the future in a way that provides for the things that we need and economic opportunity.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hemingway, please.
We don't talk about this enough, but we need to pass the Green New Deal. We need to move away from fossil fuels and invest in renewable energies, and this would create a just transition of jobs that would also reduce our energy costs. We need federal funding to restore our infrastructure that is being affected by climate change and all the flooding that we see in our communities to build the roads and the bridges. And how do we pay for all this? Well, we make the polluters pay. They're the corporations that have destroyed our environment and are destroying our communities, and they should be part of the solution in order to make our communities more resilient.
Thank you.
For too long, climate has been seen as a 2050 issue, something that's way in the future. But we're experiencing it every day when the sky is orange, when our kids have asthma attacks, when our utility bills are skyrocketing. And when I was a climate official appointed by President Biden to the Department of Energy, I fought for funding here in New Jersey for community solar, programs like LIHEAP to make sure that no one could go cold in the winter. And I'll reverse the Trump cuts that sent so much of that money to useless wars in Iran or kidnappings by ICE. And I've done this before. I took the Amtrak home on the weekends when I was a Biden appointee to make sure that funding for electric vehicles and manufacturing could come back to communities like ours. I also support programs and initiatives like the Route 29 Revitalization Plan, because we all know that highways like Route 29 were built through communities like Trenton to help predominantly white commuters, but prevent Black and brown communities from being able to develop their waterfront. And I think Trenton should not be one of the few cities on the East Coast that has lost access to billions of dollars of revenue for our waterfront.
Thank you so much. Little?
I am also a big supporter of the Green New Deal. But also we need to crack down on these AI data centers that are, increasing our utility bills and polluting our communities. We need to also, Madani did something that I found very interesting in New York City, but he did a pothole blitz. And that's something that we definitely need to do, especially around places like Trenton and Plainfield, urban areas. Also, these areas also experience a lot of flooding. So we need to put more money and invest more money into our drainage system. So that way, when these natural disasters happen, we do not have constant flooding in our communities. So those are all things that I want to invest in. I also travel on the NJ Transit line, and I know Trenton is the last stop on the Northeast Corridor. And we also need to build more transit options for better commutes across our state.
Thank you so much. And the last question in this category is for the remaining candidates. It's for Adams, Altman, Wong, Robinson, Reynolds-Jackson, and Miley. The question is, Congressman Bonnie Watson-Coleman introduced the Prohibit Auto Insurance Discrimination Act in 2019, which would prohibit New Jersey auto insurers from using credit scores, education, and income-related factors in setting rates instead of driving behavior. Do you support this bill? If so, what will you do to get it signed into law? And let's start with Adam, please.
So 100% support this law. And I would add to it, in fact, I don't know if everyone's familiar with the tort threshold here in New Jersey. So you have to decide whether you want to be able to sue for pain and suffering should you be injured in an accident. And if you choose to do that, well, then you get cut rate, insurance costs. Yeah, but that's not fair. So only the wealthy are able to sue when they really need reimbursement to put them back on the level where they would. So we need to, first of all, include regulation that forbids tort threshold discrimination. I would work with my fellow congresspeople. This is an issue nationwide. It is not unique to New Jersey, although New Jersey is the worst, but we just need to work together. And I believe I'm a very good negotiator and work across the aisle to bring about this reform.
Thank you.
Boy, insurance companies are the worst. They are the worst. They are the worst manifestation of our capitalism. They contain so many structural inequities and racism. So whatever we can do to eliminate the grip that insurance companies have over our state politics and our federal politics, I am here for it. This is a structural racism and classism problem that I will attack head on. So I will support it, and I will be vociferous in that support of it. And I think it's very interesting that it's held up in the state legislature, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Very interesting indeed. And I really like Dr. Harmon's point about the procurement differences racially and genderly across in our state politics as well, because all of these things work together. The same companies, the same donors who give money to our politicians are the ones who benefit from the laws, and those fall around racial lines and class lines and always have, and that's part of what we have to stop right now.
Thank you.
Chair.
I also support this legislation. I want to back up and talk a little bit about rights and discrimination against all Americans. I want to back up and ask, why is this not passed in Congress? Popular legislation, Republicans captured by personalist regime and an authoritarian rule, Democrats who have lost their way and are not willing to use every rule at their disposal to pass a law. When I worked for Ted Kennedy, I witnessed that man shut down the Senate. He was in the minority and he shut down the Senate and got a minimum wage increase. We need to use every lever in our power to pass popular legislation. In some cases, legislation that is favored by both parties. That means using the power of taxation, spending, amendment, investigation, all things these matter. And I want to get back to the previous question because I thought that was really interesting. I want to redirect the question of what we can do at a federal level, because all of these are priorities that we care very much about. Knowledge is under attack, science is under attack, popular policies cannot be enacted. And if we can step up in Congress and get that branch to work, we can get all these priorities, including this one about insurance.
Thank you. Got the mic down here?
I have spent a little over 5 years at the feet of Bonnie Watson Coleman. I have learned from her, and what better way to be prepared to lean into a position than to glean the insight and the expertise for someone that's already doing the job and doing it very well. So yes, I would support this act. Not only because she has done it, but because I believe in the policies in which she has enacted and that she has fought for this district. I will work in that same vein. In addition to what is happening at every level when it comes to this act, we have to have leaders with a backbone that are going to fight for you, that are going to speak up for you, they're going to speak out for you, and I would be that person to continue that legacy which she left.
Thank you so much. Jackson, please.
Thank you so much for that question, Earl. I am the prime sponsor for the Auto Insurance Reform Act that we have been championing. And so you just gave us all a call to action when we leave here. We want to pass this in New Jersey. So when I go to Congress, we can say Congress, New Jersey did this, and we're going to pass it on a national level. So I look forward. I am bold about speaking out. We passed it in the Assembly. We needed to get it done in the Senate. The president, Nick Scutari, is in favor, but we need him to have a hearing on the bill. We need him to post the bill. Let's call a spade a spade. This is what's happening. So each and every one of you in this room, contact the Senate president. Tell him you want to have this auto insurance reform bill heard. We have been working. This is your call to action. This is my fight. When I fight, you win.
Ed, please. Thank you. And Huey, please.
Okay. Of course, there should not be any discrimination of any kind anywhere, and certainly when it comes to insurance rates. So how do we fix that? Well, first of all, yes, like many other large company industries, they make plenty of money. They can afford a little less margin, wouldn't you say? And come up with a way to find fairness in, if not based on a person's income, what about what their cost of living is locally, right? I mean, how's that for a measure to say people in New Jersey, for example, that are spending so much on other necessities, maybe we need a little more break in this state for things like that. So we have to approach the formula with them. I mean, it'll take a whole lot for them to complain they're about to go out of business with changes in formula. I think that would be laughable. So we should have some room and some leverage to argue that and say that it should be based on what we're facing daily. And that's everybody in this state.
Thank you very much. Now, we're coming towards a close, and we have 2 more categories left. And I just want to reiterate, we do appreciate, just this information and really the passion that you all have showcased. And I think no matter which candidate is selected and which candidate is up there, I think that we're in safe hands in this district. And I think everyone in this audience can agree with that. So let's get to our last 2. Our last 2 categories are the first to select last one is infrastructure and transportation. And this category is for MAP, Servants, Robinson, Mealy, Dr. Hamway, and Altman. And the question is, is for immigration national policy. So this question is for immigration and national policy, my apologies. So this question is for, again, MAP, Servants, Robinson, Mealy, Dr. Hamway, and Altman. So the first question is, what immigration reforms do you support that balance border security with economic and humanitarian considerations? Let's go with Matt first, please.
First of all, our immigration policies must be based on humanity. And we do need comprehensive immigration reform. And so I would be advocating for immigration reform that would provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers and people with temporary protective status. We have to make sure that these folks are able to come into the open and be a part of our economy. But we also need to reform ICE. All of these folks up here are going to talk about abolishing ICE. And then do what? I am for reform. Whether you call it ICE or XYZ, what we need to do is reform ICE. We need to reduce significantly the funding. We need to put new policies in place, and we need to change the leadership. If you abolish ICE and you don't change the policies and the leadership and the funding, you will have the same results.
Thank you very much. Servants, please.
So immigration is an issue when I talk across the district, is one where people are just tired of politics, both sides. They just want results at this point. I think there's a variety of ways you can look at it. I think first we need to look at, let's fix the legal immigration system. Let's make sure we can get rid of some of those backlogs, make sure, because I think if you fix that, helps our families and helps the American economy. We need to have an earned pathway to citizenship. Let's make sure for people that are here contributing, obviously that they have to be held accountable and They have to have background checks, but let's have an earned pathway to citizenship. And lastly, we need to address ICE. The way it's currently structured is untenable. We need to have a bifurcation of one focused on criminal, one focused on civil. We can't have people snatching families up off the street. The fact that kids are wearing name tags to school is a problem. We are a country of laws, but we are also a country of values, and we need to stand 10 toes down on this.
Thank you. Robin?
I've already taken the pledge to abolish ICE. And yes, what comes next? ICE, as we know it today, was not intended for the use of thugs going around snatching families out of car, kidnapping kids, and separating from their families. We are a country up with compassion and dignified care for humanity and mankind. And what we need to do once we abolish ICE is make sure we have law and order and enforcement with agencies that will not only make sure that we have a pathway to citizenship, but making sure it's done in a fair and equitable manner. What we are as Americans of goodwill is being able to take care of one another, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. If we start with those values, everything else will be taken care of. We can no longer allow these thugs to rule our lives with fear. That way, when we are all distracted with what's happening with ICE and in this world, we are not worried about voting and passing good legislation.
Thank you. Evie, please.
All right, a couple of different things. Of course, the laws need to be updated and changed. It's been this way for a while, and it was through Congress. It has to be through Congress again, and that's why we need to make improvements to that for the legal process. That's number one. It's still got to be promoted that we need legal immigration. As far as the illegal entry, so first, for a few years, certainly we had little to no vetting. We didn't know how many people were sneaking in as terrorists that were pretending to be poor migrants, and it's been happening. We've seen it. So that's something that has clamped down in recent times as far as new entrants. But as far as the people who have been here for a long time, for example, people have been here for a few decades, they've stayed out of trouble, they've done it, worked hard or had their own business, whatever it is, there will be a deal on that, on the immigration law changes for that. Otherwise, for ICE, transparency, cameras, retraining to improve things, that's what we need, but we still need a civilized society with law and order. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Conway, please.
I am an immigrant. This country has been built with generation after generation of immigrants. And we need to be able to allow immigration to continue and to attract the best talent to this country so that we continue to make it better. But what we need is an orderly process. We need a system where people are able to enter this country, but we respect human rights and civil liberties. What ICE has done over the last 20 years is irredeemable. It must be abolished because it has not made our communities safer. What it has done is basically terrorizing Black and brown communities. It is kidnapping children off the streets now and killing people in broad daylight. So in addition to abolishing ICE, we just need to look at the DHS altogether and dismantle it so we don't have 20 organizations mixed together that really isn't helping our country today.
Thank you. Okay, please.
ICE has terrorized Trenton, Princeton, New Brunswick, Plainfield. It has to stop. It has to be abolished. We cannot allow this federal overreach of thugs who are untrained and violent to be let loose in our communities. And when we get the House back and we have the opportunity, we have to hold accountable and convict those people who murdered innocent lives in Minnesota. And I pray no more of that violence continues. Immigration has been a political football for both parties for the better part of 20 years. Why? Because immigrants are vulnerable people. And so Democrats and Republicans have passed that football back and forth and not solved the problem. We need to pass DACA. We need to embrace an immigration policy that is welcoming and fair. We have to reform our H-1B visa policy. We have to make sure our asylum courts are fully funded. And we have to make sure, especially when we have people coming as refugees that there are places that can be welcoming to them, where they can help with English language learning, they can help with job placement, they can help navigate our education system. We owe it to our communities.
Thank you so much. Now for our last question in this category, this is for Reynolds Jackson, Vigankar, Wong, Little, Cohen, and Adams. And his question is, where do you stand on cities receiving additional federal aid for migrant support?
I love that question. I say yes to it. I also say, let's look at the systemic racism that happens in these programs, right? We have them because we have a country that it racial profiles us. You know, I think about all of the things when we walk into a room and you show up with your true identity. I walk in as a Black woman. I can't separate myself. You get all of me. But I think about the problems we have when we come to this country and we're looking for opportunity. We have them, we must fight for them, and we must stand up to those people that are making the decisions to take our rights away. I am a fighter, I am battle tested, and I will not stand down. We are human people. I believe in human rights. I'm a pro-life person, and I'm going to continue to fight for everybody to have equal access and equity in this country.
Thank you.
This issue is very personal to me because I grew up about 20 minutes away from here in Hightstown, New Jersey. In 2005, the town made itself a sanctuary town. And I grew up with DACA kids who every day feared that they would come home and their parents would be kidnapped. And now those same DACA kids are parents of their own. And every day before school, they put their child's birth certificate or passport card in their backpack because ICE now has the ability to go after someone for their accent or their appearance. And so we need federal funding for migrant readjustment and bringing folks into our communities. And we also have to prevent Trump from unilaterally being able to terminate refugee status. I am here in this country today because of civil rights protesters that fought to fix the 1965 Immigration Nationality Act that made it easier for my parents to come here. So I want to be clear, I support abolishing ICE because that organization was created in 2003. We were able to enforce our immigration laws before. I am the youngest candidate on this stage, and even I am older than ICE. And it is time to take that money, bring it back to refugee resettlement, and make sure it's serving communities like ours.
Thank you.
I fully support aid for migrants coming into our cities. My parents came to the US, I mentioned that before, 60 years ago, and they, more than 60 years ago. And I just want to back up and say that at almost any moment in our nation's history, 1 in 7 people were born in another country and came to this nation. We are a nation of immigrants. Immigrants get the job done. Yesterday, Donald Trump reposted a podcast that said that India and China are hellholes. Okay, excuse me. Now let's get very Central Jersey, highly diverse district. And I want to say that if you've ever watched the movie Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, that's kind of a documentary. That's about the growing diversity of our state. That's about the growth of the state. And this growth is going to make us all better off. DHS and ICE were formed in 2003. Congress formed them. Congress can reform them. If we refocus on humane treatment of immigrants, we all win.
Thank you. Little, please.
I 100% support it. This country was built by immigrants, all right? And let me make one thing clear. Nobody is illegal on stolen land, all right? So, yes, I 100% support that because the majority of people who come to this country are coming here for a better life. They're coming here to get jobs and help people build infrastructure and people build things that put money back into our economy. So I 100% support that. And there was something else I wanted to say that I kind of blanked out. But that's what I also wanted to say. Forget all of the fear mongering because this is rhetoric out here that immigrants are coming and they're stealing our jobs. You tell me when somebody came right off the boat from another country and got a job that right before you that you were applying for, okay? Let's shut down the rhetoric, and I'm 100% for equality for everybody, and I want federal funding for immigrants to come into this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cohen, please.
Well, of course, I supporting our immigrants that are coming into the cities that are putting an economic burden which is preventing them from being able to afford the regular expenses just to let the city get by. We need to be able to be that nation like my father-in-law came to many years ago as a concentration camp survivor, seeing the Statue of Liberty that said that this is a country that welcomes its tired and its poor and gives everybody an opportunity. We also need to recognize that it wasn't that long ago when Trump ran for the White House that we actually had an immigration reform policy that had already been worked out, compromise, I know, dirty word, compromise between Democrats and Republicans that would have actually provided for a path for citizenship for citizens and for immigrants and for people that were DACA. Let's start to put out there, dust it off, and let that work when we get control of Congress. And of course, we need to obviously fix the issue with ICE. It's completely unfair, and we're not defunding it. We're just we're just doing a Trump, holding off the funding till it's reformed in a way that's fair to everybody.
Thank you very much. And Adam, please.
Yes, I support funding for migrants in our communities. Number one, it's human rights, and that's the most important thing. But also, this is what's good for the community. When we can bring in our neighbors and allow them to prosper and build a home and expand their families and work in the community, we as a country do much better. It's a question of math. The more people we have that are working hard and paying taxes and improving the community, the better this country will be. This is easy. I absolutely support that.
Thank you very much. Now let's move on to our last remaining topic, 2 questions split between both candidates. And this topic is accountability and representation. This topic is for Dr. Hemway, Altman, Adams, Mapp, Reynolds-Jackson, and Neely. And the question is, what is one federal vote or legislation you will be willing to take that might be unpopular, but you believe it is right for the District 12? And let's start with Dr. Hemway, please.
There's a lot of federal votes that are unpopular that I believe is right. So let's start with block the bombs. We are spending money on bombs that we don't need to be spending on. We need that money here in our communities. We are really pulling away resources that we could be using in Trenton and in Plainfield, right here in this district, to rebuild the roads, to rebuild housing and make it more available. But instead, we're dropping it on countries that really are not impacting us right now. People say this is all foreign policy, but it is affecting us here right now at home. This money is needed in our district. It's not popular. We need to stop listening to corrupt special interests that are distracting us from the real problems that we have here at home.
Thank you very much. Owen, please.
That wasn't on that. Who's next?
Sorry. Oh,
Is it me?
yes.
So I don't take corporate PAC money. I never have, and I never will. And I will tell you that even the Democrats in Washington want you to take corporate PAC money because it makes the fundraising all that much easier. So the most unpopular thing I would do is go right at those billionaires, go right at those corporations. 55 billionaires have spent over $500 million on our races this cycle already. And we're just in primary season. These guys are buying our democracy because they want to control our economy. This is the fight, the capital F fight. The fight of our generation, the fight of our country, the fight over who controls our democracy. So it is unpopular, but I don't give a shake because it is the future of our democracy, which is the future of our country, and it's all of us against those guys.
Thank you so much. Adams?
So I'm going to say something that you definitely didn't expect to hear tonight. I live in an elephant's trunk. So NJ12 is a very odd-shaped district, is it not? So I would say that I believe wholeheartedly that we should restrict gerrymandering. And we see fights about who started it and this, that, and the other thing. But I believe that your vote should count 100%. I do not believe that you should have your vote watered down because you live in a particular community. I believe that we should have a law forbidding gerrymandering, have a central way of ensuring that districts are not gerrymandered, and stop the bickering and the back and forth. And ultimately, we in New Jersey would need to sort of look into this as well and say, do we need to sort of shape our districts a little bit more fair? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe, please.
So another one, probably not right in the front of everybody's mind, but there's a reason it connects. Term limits. I've been, ever since I've ever campaigned for anything, I've been an anti-corruption candidate. And no matter who it is, what side of the aisle, all that stuff, if I find information, I'm going to expose it, because that is the root of all the other problems, is government that's bought and paid for. And that's, again, both sides of the aisle. So the waste, fraud, and abuse is largely enabled within Congress because they get to stay there as career politicians. It's even worse when they're not, having previous private sector experience, but even without, if it's a long period of time and they just get, entrenched, they squash their primary competition, and then the district vilifies one side or the other, so the general is more of an afterthought in many cases. So that's where we have to start. I have pledged self-term limiting.
Thank you very much. Reynolds Jackson.
Thank you for that question. I don't have just one, I have a list. But one of them would definitely be around abolishing ICE, but I think those fundings should be going to FEMA or infrastructure. We have a water reservoir here that needs to be covered. We need those dollars to come back. But I'm also thinking about the military supply. We supply 50% of the military's war supplies to other countries. If we're going to not fund just for one particular country, we need to stop doing them all. And so I would be asking Congress to include more countries to stop the military supply to those, because again, I am a pro-life person and I believe in protecting everyone where they live at. And we supply way too many trillions of dollars that we can be using for housing, education, healthcare. We get a supply of things that we need in our country instead of killing innocent lives.
Thank you so much. And Matt, please.
Well, I will certainly be voting so as to codify a law that will take Citizens United out of our politics, the influence of Citizens United. I also would be advocating for the Voting Rights Act to become permanent. That might not be popular among certain factions, but it is certainly humane and it is the right thing to do. I would also be looking to oppose a poll tax known as the SAFER Act. And if it is still being discussed when I get to Washington, D.C., I would make sure that I cast a vote to oppose the SAFE Act, because it's a poll tax. It is not in the right interest of voting rights, and we need to make sure that it never becomes the law of the land. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for our last question before closing remarks, this is for Cohen, Robinson, Servants, Vigakar, Wong, and Little. And the question is, if you are elected to Congress, what are your plans to be accessible to your district, and will you commit to hosting regular town halls?
That's an easy one. Of course, this is the role of a representative. As many of you know, before Bonnie Watson Coleman was our representative, it was Rush Holt. And Rush Holt would go around telling people, don't call me congressman, call me representative. That's the role. That's a reason, as annoying and as obnoxious as it is, to have to do this every 2 years. Our founding fathers believed that the role of Congress was to be most representative of the people that put them there. And as demographics change, things change, the ability for you to elect your representative and have them be out there and representing your thoughts was how they thought about that 250 years ago. Now, while we have a president that's ignoring the Constitution, we shouldn't. And I think that that would be a critical role. I do that as mayor. I have done more town halls than any other mayor in the past. And what people think when I started 10 years ago may be a little different now. That's the reason why you need to get out in front of people and really represent them in the most powerful place on earth.
Thank you so much. Ms. Robertson.
I will continue to do what I'm already doing, be an accessible, visible, and present leader. You come into this space to be a public servant, so therefore you should stand with, work with the public. You don't get to sit in an ivory tower legislating with the power of the pen. I am for the people, by the people. I believe in rolling up my sleeves and making sure that I'm not legislating in a silo, but I have my staff, I have the people that I bring to the table who are stakeholders in the space in which we need to move the needle forward. I am a leader for all people at all times. In the most diverse county in this state of New Jersey, I lead where my town has over 70 houses of worship, over 1,000 of languages, and I know how to be that leader, that voice, that present, accessible person at all times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Service?
So I consider myself a servant leader, which is why we talk to so many people across this district. I don't think you should just be door knocking during the campaign. 20,000 plus doors knocked on. We should be doing that throughout the year. On our site, we have a whole section, people don't go to websites anymore, that talks about community engagement, because I think it's that important. And how we're going to approach it if and when elected. That we're going to stay engaged in each one of the municipalities, that we're going to have town halls, that we're going to make sure we keep a report card on ourselves, to keep track records, and make sure that we're being accountable to you. That's what we should do. That's what we all should be doing as servant leaders. That's what I try to lead with the campaign, and this is why we talk to so many people across the district, and I continue to do that as your congressman.
Thank you very much. Mike Clark.
So when it comes to access, you deserve a member of Congress who regularly comes home to this district whenever DC is not in session. You also deserve someone who regularly hosts town halls in all 32 towns in this district. And you also deserve someone who speaks the languages of this district. I'm the son of Indian immigrants. I grew up speaking Hindi. I grew up in a sanctuary town where I became fluent in Spanish. My Spanish is actually better than my Hindi. Don't tell my parents. But that's what I would do publicly. What also matters is what I do privately. I've committed to bills to ban congressional stock trading. I won't touch any stocks as a member of Congress. And I'll go even further. I think that members of Congress should be restricted from getting any sort of additional business income. We saw how Trump was able to get bribes through his hotel businesses. Members of Congress who own casinos or businesses of their own is a backdoor way to get bribes. I think it's important that everyone on this stage commits to divesting from any capital interest they have, whether it's rental homes, their businesses, or stocks. That's the commitment we can make publicly to you by visiting this district every single day we can, but also what we commit privately, having no financial conflicts of interest.
Thank you.
Me, right?
Yes.
Good. All right. So representation is a key pillar of our constitutional system of government. And this is perhaps one of the most important questions of all. There are many ways to do this. Now, politics and service are a team sport. And Bonnie Watson-Coleman has a staff that has served in Washington and a staff that served here in the district. Constituent service is very important. And I hope to work with Congresswoman Coleman's staff to see what their thoughts are in representation, to keep them on board, to make sure that you get the same level of service you got before. And I want to step back a little bit and talk about long-term problems in representation. We talk about money playing a dominant role in our politics. We talk about people who are out of step with, out of touch with their representatives. Back in the day, 30,000 people were in a district. Now we have 770,000. We need to think ahead how to bring representatives closer to the people. And this answers this question and the previous question. I would enlarge the House of Representatives. I think in the long term, we need fewer people per district so that people like us can be in touch with people like you. And we can work together on that.
Thank you so much. Little, please. Being accessible, that's like a no-brainer to me.
I mean, even if you look at my social media, I'm probably the most active person on social media. So you guys can always just DM me and hit me up. You know what I mean? Ali, I see you. Like, you know, we talk through DM all the time. But yes, of course, I will always be of service. I'm a man of service. I'm a brother of Iota Phi Theta, despite the blue. You know what I mean? So I've always been a man of service. I've always been someone who's given back to my community. And I want to be in DC. I want to be the type of congressman that's in DC, passing legislation that actually provides, you know, good policies for the people in New Jersey's 12th congressional district. I actually live in this district, and I want to provide for the people of New Jersey's 12th congressional district, and at the same time, come back and congregate with y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all want to come back? Don't want me to teach y'all boots on the ground? I got y'all there. You know, like I want to be that person that is friends with people. I want to be that person that y'all can come to me anytime and tell me what y'all want me to vote on, and that's the type of vote I will represent for you in DC.
Thank you so much, Ms. Little. Now, we're at the end of our moderated question, and we want to finish strong. So what we're going to do is we're going to have each of our candidates close up, and we're going to end with a closing 90 seconds, okay? So we started at the beginning from left to right. We're going to start from right to left with Mr. Servants, ending with Ms. Robinson, please. Go ahead, 90 seconds.
All right, I'm not going to teach y'all boots on the ground. I can't do that. But I do think, look, we're at a crossroads in this country, a crossroads where the future is not guaranteed to be better than the past. I think for generations, people used to say that you work hard, you play by the rules, and opportunities will come to you. And I think that promise is too far out of reach by many Americans currently. I think housing is too high, healthcare isn't accessible. I believe climate change is becoming more real every day. And the question is, what are we going to do about that? We have the Republican Party that have Project 2025. The question is, on our side, what is our plan? I think too often the Democratic Party is reactionary instead of visionary, and it's my goal as a congressman to provide that next Democratic contract with America. And to me, that looks like if you work full time, you should be able to live with dignity. That means access to care, affordable housing. That means getting money out of politics. That means investing in climate change, investing in education, investing in resources that can help make our economy thrive. That means making sure that we're getting money out of politics, protecting our voting rights, acknowledging that Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and racism are real, but they do not deserve to be part of our politics. As your congressman, that's what I would focus on. I believe this moment calls for a new generation of leadership that can step in on day one and get results. That's what I've done my entire career, and that's what I would do as your congressman.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead. So I was actually the first candidate in this race to come in and really represented a new generation of leadership. I keep saying over and over, New Jersey's 12th congressional district is one of the most diverse districts across the country. And when it comes to representation, I am one of the most diverse people you can be. If you talk about protecting Social Security and Medicare for seniors, I'm the proud grandson of two 91-year-old grandparents and two parents over 65. If you talk about investing in young people, I'm an educator. I'm an adjunct college professor at King University. I talk to young people all the time. I know the needs and wants of young people. I am a black man. We know that black voters are the biggest and most loyal constituency of the Democratic Party. I'm also an openly gay man. So I represent two of the most marginalized communities in the world. So I am going to always fight for the people in New Jersey's 12th congressional district, and this is the time where we need a fighter, because right now we have a bigot in the White House, and we have a Republican Party that's basically, to me, in my opinion, a party of white supremacy right now. So I want to be there for you. I got in this race to fight for you. I'm not the most perfect and well-spoken person. No, I don't have any political experience, but I am guaranteed to fight for you because I have to. I entered this race to fight for survival.
Thank you.
I am Adrian Matt, and I have lived in this district for over 2 decades. My kids were born here. They went to school here. I have been a servant of this community for a very long time, having served for 4 consecutive terms as mayor of our city. I am known as that person who delivers results and who knows how to get the job done. So much so that I have earned the endorsement of Raz Baraka, of Senate President Nick Scutari, and of the statewide Firefighters Association. So my reputation precedes me. I know how to get things done. I grew up with a stutter, a severe stutter that I overcame. And for a long time, I was silent. And there's so many people in this community who feel as though they don't have a voice. And so I want to be that voice for the people of the 12th Congressional District. Your voice is our voice. That's not just a slogan. That's my lived experience. And that is why I am here, to fight for you. And I pledge to you that when I go to Washington to fight for you, we all go to Washington. Thank you.
Thank you.
So here in Central Jersey, I know the last few years have been hard. Every day is some new headline, some new ICE raid, a new war, a new program being cut, a new war being started. And it's meant to keep us in a constant state of anxiety and despair. And for communities like ours, we've been dealing with these problems long before Donald Trump was ever in office. And as a young voter, it causes a lot of people in my generation to get cynical, to want to lose hope. But that's exactly what the special interests want. The corporate interests of greed and bigotry want communities like ours to give up on the political process. But I choose to have hope. I hope that healthcare can be affordable no matter your ability to pay. I hope that our water can be safe to drink no matter the structural problems. I hope that our money can be used to actually lower our utility bills rather than bomb children abroad. And the reason I have that hope is it's not driven by corporate PACs or super PACs or APAC. It's driven by all of you, the community that raised me. And so I choose to have hope because our community deserves the kind of representation that's ready to fight for a new generation, that feels that urgency to fight for everyday people. So my name is Jay Vongenker. I'm 28 years old. I'm a former White House official, and I'm running for Congress here because it is time for new energy in our politics.
Thank you.
I'm a public advocate. I got into this space to help my nephews navigate special education. And when I, the social worker, had problems navigating that space, and I reached out to my local official and I asked for help, I'm gonna just say it nicely here, he was very dismissive on multiple occasions. And I said, if this is what representation looks like, I'm gonna run for office and I'm gonna let the people vote him out. And that's exactly what happened. And so now I'm in the legislature. I'm not talking about what I'm gonna do in Washington. I'm doing this work right now. I am fighting against Donald Trump. I am making sure that we protect our democracy here. I'm fighting to make sure that we have health care here. But also, as the more I think about it, the PMs, I got to call the pharmacy benefit companies. I got a call the other day from someone that said they needed help, a senior. She said my prescription was $0. They told me today it's $209. I said we get rid of those PBMs. We don't need them anymore. We have to fight to put the power back into the people. So I am Verlena Reynolds Jackson. I'm a public advocate. Nobody gave me anything. I worked for it, just like education, just like Mercer County, just like First Gens. I am fighting to run for Congress, to be your next representative, to bring the people power back to Congress.
Thank you so much.
I grew up working class in this district. I went to public schools here. I'm raising my family here. I'm serving in emergency rooms. I set up my business here. And I know the problems that people face because I see it and I've lived it every day. I could never fully understand what it's like to grow up and be Black in America. But as an immigrant and as a Muslim man, I understand what racism is. I understand discrimination. I know what it's like to be demonized and dehumanized, and I understand what it's like to have your patriotism challenged. But what I do know is that every one of us has an inherent human dignity that no one could take away. No institution, no system, no government, and that's the truth, not politics. I am tired of seeing money and resources pulled away from our communities here at home and used and to drop bombs and fund endless wars. These resources, this money could fund our healthcare, our education, housing, and create new jobs. We need to bring this back home here. When I was with the medical team in Gaza 2 years ago and trapped, I did not leave my team behind who could not leave safely with me. I stayed until we could all leave together. Too many Americans are being left behind today. When I go to Washington, I will stand with you like I stood with that medical team. I'm Dr. Adam Hamway, and I hope to earn your support.
Thank you.
As I said earlier, I am NJ-12. I not only grew up here, but I am raising a family here. I have 3 boys, one of whom is severely disabled. I have been his advocate since he was first diagnosed. I fought the school district through due process 3 times, and each time after that battle, the special education department in Middlesex Borough got better. And it was better because I stayed there and I fought because I thought that was the right thing to do. I'm a veteran, 30 years I've served, all from my home in Middlesex. I feel like I brought back that veteran experience to the American Legion in Middlesex Borough, where I was the commander. We were flooded terribly, and I led us back, so we're viable now. I am on the ARC board of Somerset County, using my special education knowledge to make it better for all special needs people. I have the desire, but do I have the resume? Well, for this particular moment in time, especially with a government that is involved in a war that we have no business being in, as an Army lawyer who knows the rules, as a defense expert who's an expert in appropriations, I know where we can make this country better for this moment particularly. Thank you. Matt Adams.
I'm Brad Cohen, and I know that Martin Luther King said that the arc of the moral universe is bent towards justice. But he didn't say that it's always a smooth ride. It sometimes has little divots. We're in one of those divots right now. We as Democrats have 2 years. We have to take back the Congress and take back the Senate. We have to hopefully use that to win the presidency in 2028. And in order to do that, we need 2 years to really get things done. I'm not looking at being thrown out of Congress or have microphones thrown at me. I'm looking at standing down and getting the work done, because my experience matters. I've been a physician for 30 odd years. Women's health has been what I've given my life to. That's actually being challenged right now across the country. I've been in the Board of Education, understand exactly how education works, public education, which should be the great equalizer. And I've been a mayor now for 10 years, been able to actually do things that brings housing to the public, that provides it in a way in which I've never raised taxes over 1%. This is all doable, but we need to get control of Congress. And I know as a physician, I know that as patients, that when you look for somebody who's going to work on you, you want somebody who's actually had experience before, because it matters. The levers of government are very difficult to move, and you need to have somebody who knows how to do that when we are in such a limited time frame to get so much done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, first of all, certainly thank you to the Chamber, to the League, the Union, for putting this event on. It's a fantastic job. I've really enjoyed being here with all my colleagues here. And so I want to just mention, in my law practice over the years, I've developed a sort of a trademark name of sorts as the people's lawyer. Now, that means basically everybody has my cell, everybody knows they can call me at any waking moment, and if I'm not sleeping or if I'm not talking to somebody, I will talk to you, and otherwise I'll call you right back. I want to hear from everyone to know what the concerns are. Now, I have been in and around this district for the past 35 years, also involved in politics for the last, I'd say, 7 years in and around this district, and also statewide. So I've gotten a real good look at What I'm proud to say is one of the most diverse districts, as was mentioned, in the country. I find great pride in that because I love hearing from different people in different situations and finding a way to make it all work. I'm a problem solver. I love to do that. The themes of personal responsibility I mentioned earlier, and also the getting people retrained and things like that. That's what you focus on with analytics and even-handedness and steadiness. And that's what I aim to do. It's Greg Mealy, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Sam Wong. I'm a working scientist. Scientists build practical solutions. We use data and facts to do that. In my laboratory at Princeton University, I've developed tools for early diagnosis of autism. That was a problem I was familiar with growing up with a sister with autism. In my work at the Electoral Innovation Lab here in the 12th District, I've worked to fight gerrymandering. I've designed practical solutions that work nationwide and can also work in Congress. New thinking is required because we have big problems. We have deep disruptions. Solving all the problems that we've heard about today require a working, functional Congress. And this requires new thinking. I bring that new thinking. This is why I've been endorsed by Andrew Yang. It's why I've been endorsed by multiple Nobel laureates, winners of the National Medal of Science, and brilliant scientists from all around the district, from Princeton, Rutgers, TCNJ. These men and women have endorsed me. The essential work of the next Congress and the Congresses after that is to stop the damage to our system, to halt the discrimination, to halt the destruction of our federal government, to halt the destruction of knowledge itself. All these things have to be stopped. And then we have to build for the future. Congress needs to reassert itself under Article 1 of the Constitution and use all its powers to become the preeminent power of Congress. And that's how we're going to get all these priorities that we've talked about today. My name is Sam Wong. I'm a scientist to rescue facts, health, and democracy itself.
Thank you.
The last 18 months have been rough. And I don't have to tell you, because if you're here, it means you never looked away. You've watched it, you've absorbed it, you've been on that emotional roller coaster, and still you show up. And for that, I'm grateful. And I'm grateful to the Chamber, and I'm grateful to the ACLU and the League of Women Voters and Mercer County Community College for being part of this process in which we have to rebuild our country. I think New Jersey is a ray of hope in the country right now. Regardless of who you might have supported in the primary, we just elected with historic margins a Democratic governor, showing that there is a bottom to this madness. It was a direct referendum on the Republicans. We've had incredible, record-breaking turnout up in NJ11, where they elected my predecessor, Anna Lilia, to Congress, Representative Nieha, with record-breaking turnout. And we are in the process of a reform moment in our Democratic Party here in New Jersey, which is exciting and wonderful. One of the most jarring aspects of this past year has been watching Project 2025 happen with complete and utter obviousness. Where is the Democratic Party that owns change? We are the party that has to be the change. My name is Sue Altman. I look forward to serving you, and I truly appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
My commitment to the community goes deeper than a title. I have a title because I serve. I don't serve because I have a title. I have worked since 1989 and volunteered with Special Olympics. I have built 4 homes, 2 on my own block with Habitat for Humanity. I don't just talk community. I live it, I build it, and I fight for it. And I will fight for you in Congress, just like I've done for the 65,000 residents in Franklin Township when I was on council and deputy mayor. Just like I continue to do for the over 360,000 residents of Somerset County. You need a leader and a fighter for all people at all times. I am not a one-issue candidate. I didn't just arrive on scene. I have been here working long before I got elected, and I will continue to fight for what you believe in. We have complex issues and competing priorities. But when you have a leader that listens, twice as much as they talk. And that's the reason God gave us one mouth and 2 ears, that are able to work across the aisle and work with the people of the community. That's when change really happens. It's because all of us working together. Under my leadership, we have expanded affordable housing, directed resources, communities that have been overlooked for far too long. Those investments, just to name a few, have been funding for education, infrastructure, champion programs to address social and environmental justice. That is what good governance is and real leadership looks like. I'm Chanel Robinson for Congress.
Thank you so much. Now listen, I know you all been itching to clap. So please give a round of applause for This is an amazing thing. And let's be honest, it's not easy being on the stage with so many people and having to confine your answers when you want to talk more and share. But this shows the empowerment of this event, where we're all here to learn about their perspectives. Now, this is not the end of the thing. You all have to go out there and vote. So here's some important dates. May 12th is voter registration deadline. Vote by mail application deadline is May 26th. In-person early voting period is May 26th to May 31st. Vote by mail application deadline is June 1st. And primary election date is June 2nd. You can get more information out there. Let's give another round of applause for our host, African American Chamber of Commerce, the League of Women Voters in our union, and let's have our fearless leader close out, Dr. Harmon, the smoothest CEO in America. Please come up here, please close out. Thank you.
Oh, wow, this is great. Give yourselves a round of applause. We're going to bring this train to the station. Let me start by just thanking all of our partners, the League of Women Voters, the ACLU, Mercer County Community College, and these impressive candidates. Give them a round of applause. I want to thank the staff of the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey and all the volunteers that worked under the leadership of Carmen Gates. Now, you know, we have a few mayoral candidates for the city of Trenton in the room. I'd like to acknowledge them. They're here. I see Corey here. Give them a round. Arnold Mayor. Who is that? Okay, good. Let me close out with the fire. I said mayor again. I got the script. This is my show. All elected officials, we send you love. How's that? All right, thank you. That's a good aid there. Thank you. So let's bring this in. I would have to admit to you, some of you, this is my first time meeting you. This was a very impressive exchange. We wish you all the best, but hey, only one person is going to win, right? But that doesn't mean that the rest of you fall back and
Yeah.
Right? We need you. We need you. We need your energy. We need your wisdom. We need your intellectual capacity. But most importantly, I think that a couple things that I am personally looking for in the next congressional representative of this district is courage. Courage and accountability to their constituency. Because courage is lacking. A few of the policies I articulated today, the auto insurance, the project labor agreement, we've been kicking the can with these issues in New Jersey for the longest. New Jersey has too many sacred cows. Too many. And we talk about it, and these are affecting people's lives. So we need a little more courageousness going forward. Now, we are looking for more partners with the African American Chamber of Commerce. You don't have to be Black to be a member of the chamber. let's dispel that foolishness today. You need to be serious about the state of New Jersey. If you're a business owner, serious about your business enterprise. If you're just an individual, serious about the overall mutual beneficial exchange that you take that occurs between you, your neighbor, business, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we're looking for. I like the idea of calling for a hearing with Senator Scutari. We have been planning that in the chamber. So anyone that's interested in signing on with us, you can see Carmen today, because we will be having some serious conversations with our legislators going forward, because some of the stuff is just ridiculous. There's preferences being given to one group over another. I have nothing against the trades. I think they provide a great value to the state's economy, but they're not the only game in town. And many of our elected officials, I support the trades because they're afraid. I support real, credible people that add value to our economy. That's who we support. And Black people need to eat just like everybody else needs to eat. Our $20,000 net worth to $666,000 for other people, that makes no sense when we're providing 90% plus vote for people getting elected. Yeah. Where's the reciprocity? So that's the kind of vigor we want to hear. There's nothing about it's not a game for chumps, right? You're not in the game unless you get dirt on your uniform. You can't be tiptoeing around the issues of or speaking to people in the evening, I got you, and then selling your people out. We see it all the time. The African American Chamber of Commerce needs you because we represent the community. We are nonpartisan, and there's some folks say, well, they lean this way, we lean that way. You got to read with objectivity. Some of your eyes are not open to objectivity, and you're tainted by what you hear and not what you know. Facts still matter. Yes. And so we must live by facts and not live by suppositions. You know, we're being guided and manipulated because we're not men and women who have intestinal fortitude and willingness to stand 10 toes down. That's what we need today. I want to thank the Trenton Journal for streaming today's presentation. The auto insurance, the project labor agreements are two primary issues that there's plenty of room to negotiate here. We're not trying to take something from anybody, but we have to coexist in a way. Affordability lies heavily in some of these policies, right? They're skewed one side and leaving out the other side. Some people are going to be okay no matter how much things cost, but a lot of people won't be. So the last thing I'll say is credibility matters. The African American Chamber of Commerce has been in business, this June will be 19 years. Wow. 19 years. We started with a vision and $14,000. So you don't need a lot of money, but you got to be committed to your own success. This organization represents the entire state of New Jersey, not just Black people, because we cannot win with Black people alone. We can't. And so there are 154 chambers of commerce in the state of New Jersey. We are the only accredited chamber of commerce in the state with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and that's something I'm very proud of. So with that said, we're going to give you back your weekend, and we need more partners for mutual success. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, you're welcome.
Great job. Thank you.
Hey, can we get a picture? Line up all the candidates.
Yes, our candidates, we need a photo.
Are you Can we all get up real quick? He's right there.
All the candidates. Oh, wait, I can get it.
Carmen, you got a phone? Carmen, where's your phone at? Carmen, where's your phone at? Where's your phone at?
Very well.
Great job, good job.
Are we good?